record. And 2 weeks later, it became the first division in NFL history to be knotted at the 10-week mark. And going into tonight's game, it's the first time this season that all the teams in this division have different records. The AFC East is still totally up for grabs. And tonight, on Monday Night Football, Jets quarterback Ken O'Brien attempts to keep his team tied at the top, while Miami quarterback Dan Marino hopes that his success against the Jets continues and the Dolphins can remain in the race. Tonight from Miami on ABC's NFL Monday Night Football, it's the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins. This is our 18th season, and with those years, so many memories. Bradshaw firing, forget it. Dick Anderson is third and a touchdown. Touchdown. God. He scored. Brilliant. Third down and 2. Woody Bennett goes in motion, and they give it to Hampton. Shining high overhead here in Florida. It's a beautiful, balmy, breezy South Florida evening, a perfect night for football. And tonight, it's the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins, two teams trying for a playoff spot in the NFL. This ABC Sports exclusive is brought to you by Pontiac, America's road car company. We build excitement. Brought to you by Miller Brewing Company, sole sponsor of the U.S. Olympic Training Center. Brought to you by Transamerica, the power of the pyramid is working for you. And brought to you by Tandy Computers, there is no better value. Hello again, everyone. I'm Frank Gifford, and welcome to Joe Robbie Stadium, where tonight the New York Jets will meet the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins, 5-6, they are struggling to stay alive, and they are really struggling. They know that if they lose tonight, for all intent and purposes, their season is over, and they can start thinking about next year and dreaming about future draft picks. To say the least, Don Shula is a very unhappy head coach. For the New York Jets, they're a little better off. They know with a win tonight, they can move into a tie with Indianapolis in the AFC Eastern Division at 7-5. But it's been a tough year for both coaches. They can't understand what's happened. They don't know what team is going to show up on any given Sunday. 2 weeks ago, the Dolphins played the Dallas Cowboys, and they played well offensively and defensively. A week ago, they went up to Buffalo, and they were shut out 27-0. So you don't know who's going to show up. And Al Michaels, Joe Walton has had the same frustration. They have played 6 games. The last 6 games, they've won 3, lost 3, and they have won in strange ways, and they have lost in bizarre ways.
He may not be the happiest man, but he's not in bad shape, all things considered, right now, Frank, because the one thing about the New York Jets is they control their own destiny. If they win all of their remaining games, they would clinch a playoff spot, and right now with a victory tonight, they'd be tied with Indianapolis for the top spot in the AFC East. They are a lot like the team we saw last week, the Seattle Seahawks, in that you don't know what you're going to get. And if you've only seen the Jets this season on Monday Night Football, they look great. They played their 2 best games in prime time. Week 2, the night before the strike, they beat New England by 19 points. And then 4 weeks ago tonight in East Rutherford, New Jersey, they came from behind to beat Seattle by 16 points. Last week, though, it took a blocked field goal run in for a touchdown by Rich Miano to eke out a victory over Cincinnati. But the Jets have won 3 out of 4 and could move into a tie with the Colts for first place with a victory. As far as the Dolphins are concerned, Dan, I know one thing that Don Shula has to be hopeful of tonight. Last week was an aberration and not a precursor. They look terrible.
Yeah, he's hoping it's an aberration because, Al, absolutely one of the worst performances. 27-0. They were shut out by Buffalo last week in Buffalo, and it really wasn't even that close. General Custer was treated better at Little Bighorn than the Dolphins were last weekend up in Buffalo. All right, so how does the team respond? Well, your immediate response is to think they come out of here with fire out of their noses and they're going to play a darn good football game. On the other hand, regardless of the sport, whether it's basketball, boxing, football, how many times have we been able to look back at a specific game and say, you know, that team was never the same after they took that beating? So tonight, will it be the good? Will it be the bad? It's got to be one or the other, because last week, for sure, if you're a Dolphin fan, you saw the ugly.
Did you ever? And Don Shula, last week, very upset because not only did the Dolphins play so brutally in Buffalo, but it was a very big game. They knew it, and they could get nothing going. And so there he is with Marino and Joe Walton, the only coach in the history of the Jets with a winning lifetime mark. 7 over 500 and 6-5 on the season coming in. And here at Joe Robbie Stadium, it's the Jets kicking off to the Dolphins with Pat Leahy to put it in the air, and Lorenzo Hampton, number 27, and Scott Schwades, the rookie, number 81, back to receive. And this is Hampton who will run it out from about 4 yards in, and Hampton brings it back out to the 21-yard line. Billy Griggs making the tackle, and here comes Dan Marino, who had thrown a touchdown pass in 30 consecutive games prior to last week's debacle in Buffalo. His career mark against the Jets is good. 22 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions. And he's got the rookie Troy Stradford in the backfield with him, with the blocking back Bennett, Duper and Clayton the wideouts, Hardy the tight end, and the offensive line, the man in the middle, Dwight Stephenson, perennial Pro Bowler. Through the middle, Stradford for a big gain out to the 36-yard line. And Stradford, who was limited last week to a total of 23 yards at Buffalo, explodes through the line for a first down out to the 35 and a gain of 14. Lyons, who missed last week's game, is back, and Klecko comes back from knee surgery. He starts for the 3rd consecutive week. There are the linebackers and the defensive backs, Carter and Howard at the corners, Miano and Hamilton, the safeties, and the Jets are banged up in the secondary. Ron Davenport replaces Bennett now in the backfield. The fake is to Davenport, and the pass is dropped by Hardy, and that has become an all-too-common sight for the Dolphins. For Hardy, for Dan Johnson, the other tight end, and the receivers as well. Marino has been the victim of a lot of dropped balls in recent weeks. 2nd and 10 from the 35.
Now, when we saw Stradford take off in that very first play, it was almost deja vu of a year ago. Remember, we thought they'd be throwing the ball, and they just ran the Jets right out of the stadium, beating them 45-3 in the second game a year ago.
And Lorenzo Hampton that night ran for 148 yards. Stradford gets tackled after a pickup of 1. It's Lance Mel, another of the Jets back from knee surgery, who makes the stop.
And he was not there a year ago, number 56, nor was Joe Klecko, number 73, nor was Marty Lyons, nor was Gastineau. They were all out of the lineup when the Dolphins took them apart on the ground a year ago.
3rd down and 9. Dolphins to their own 36-yard line. Gastineau comes in to pass rush, number 99 for the Jets, who had a big sack last week in the Cincinnati game. Marino out of the shotgun. And over the middle, wide open, Pruitt, first down at the 40-yard line. James Pruitt, the second-year wide receiver from Cal State Fullerton, with a lot of talent, but he's been erratic, picks up the first down.
James Pruitt just lined up in the slot position. Really nothing fancy. He's just going to work down man coverage. A simple move to the inside, but here's the key. Watch that blue darter from Marino. Out of the shotgun formation, working against Russell Carter to the inside, and zap, there it is. A perfect throw that time from Dan Marino.
Gain of 25. Dolphins with successive first downs, now at the 39-yard line, and it's Stradford inside the 35. He gets to the 29-yard line. Tackled there by Lance Mel, and very close to a first down.
You know, these guys are playing like a team who's been challenged by their head coach. If you know anything at all about Don Shula, you know this has been a miserable week to be a Dolphin football player. The press has been highly critical. The coach has been even more critical. And when we talked to him this morning, what did he tell us? We deserved it. I mean, he's got broad shoulders. Give him credit for that.
Free play, 2nd and 1. They spotted at the 30-yard line. And Marino leaves it on the ground, giving it to Stradford, and he picks up the first down as he gains 7 to the 23-yard line. Mel and Crable in on the tackle.
Oh, and at this moment, the Miami Dolphins offensive line, which was non-existent against Buffalo, they could do nothing up there, 23 yards rushing. They are opening big holes. They're blowing the Jets defensive line and linebackers right out of there. And Troy Stradford, we go back to that Dallas game, 169 yards, and he was, what, held at 23 yards last week against Buffalo?
Couldn't get his footing.
And the thing to remember about those 23 yards, 14 of them came on one play.
That was the little bighorn.
From the 24 on 1st and 10. It's Ron Davenport for a gain of 5. One thing about the Dolphins this season, they have been very proficient on their first drive of a game. In 11 games this season, they have scored 6 touchdowns yards on their first drive, and they're trying to make it 7 out of 12 here. And off to a good start down to the 19.
We could put the other numbers up. On the other hand, the Jets have been very tough against scoring in the early going of a football game.
Jets have given up only 20 points all season in the first quarter. 2nd and 6 from the 19-yard line. And Marino hitting the tight end Hardy, seeking the first down, and has it as he gets to the 13-yard line. Stopped by Rich Miano.
Just crossing underneath the wide receiver is Bruce Hardy, who struggled himself. He has had a lot of drops over the past few weeks. Not a good year for Bruce Hardy. Ordinarily a sure hand at tight end, but just a little crossing pattern. Breaks behind the wide receiver. Picked up by Alex Gordon, the rookie out of Cincinnati. He just couldn't stay with him.
Well, it's really the perfect type of pattern for Hardy, Frank, because he really doesn't have the speed to challenge a secondary down the middle. If you're going to use him like Dan Marino did there, it's got to be on a short 7, 8, 10-yard route, a lot of times going towards the sideline.
Davenport and Hampton are the running backs, and Davenport gets inside the 10, taken down at the 6-yard line, and it will be 2nd down and 3 as Kyle Clifton and Miano converge on the tackle.
And they're destroying the interior part of that line.
Well, if I'm Bud Carson and the New York Jets defensive coach, I don't even show my team the film of Miami playing Buffalo last week, because these guys aren't that bad. And this is a good example of what they do when they get down there, as we see Bud Carson. I wouldn't even have looked at the film, because you're going to get a distorted image of this offensive line. Last week was not the norm for the Miami Dolphins.
2nd down and 3. And it's Stradford taking it to the 4. Not only was Miami shut out last week, the Dolphins, if you can believe it, never got inside Buffalo's 24-yard line. And here they are at the Jet 4.
And, you know, if you didn't watch the game, I think your natural assumption is that, oh, it was played in a blizzard or something like that. Now, granted, it was a windy day up in Buffalo, but we've all watched the tapes of that game. It was painful. It's one of the worst butt beatings I've ever seen. I mean, there's no other way to describe it.
Absolutely not. 3rd and inches inside the 5. Stratford, he takes it to the 3 for a first down.
This is what Joe Walton had in mind to do to Miami. Move the ball on the ground, keep the offensive team of Marino off the field, and they have taken a card away from Joe, and they are doing exactly what he would like to do, and they've run off, what, 6 minutes almost, close to it already.
They did not give him as much forward progress as it appeared with the naked eye. I thought it was a first down easily, and they're going to have to measure now as they spot it closer to the 4 than the 3. And he does not have it.
You notice how they rocked the football forward there. You don't get to do that, though, to make contact with the chain.
Oh, decision time. You're 5 and 6 is when you've got to win. You're moving the ball on the ground. You're blowing out the defensive line. You got to go for it here.
No doubt about it, and that's exactly what they're going to do.
And this is a little bit of a character test for that rebuild defense of the Jets. With Blecko in there, Marty Lyons alive and healthy.
Will Marino keep it on 4th and inches? He has Davenport and Hampton behind him as he asks for quiet.
How often do you see the quarterback not get the spot on a quarterback sneak on a play that short?
And this movement in the interior. Before he hands the ball off, the play was whistled dead before Hampton moved through the line.
Jets, of course, indicating that they were drawn off. You see that, but they were doing it in unison. So now the Dolphins say it's going to work against the Jets, and this will be made easy.
Bob Frederick is the referee.
Encroachment on the defense, number 94, and it will be half the distance for the first down.
Scott Mercero. And you can get a good look at it inside. Watch this defensive front of the Dolphins. For the Jets, nobody from Miami moves. See the surge clearly before the snap of the football. That you see Dan kind of drop back when he wanted to snap, but that was after the Jets were across the line.
1st and goal now. The Dolphins with 5 first downs on this drive, and it's Marino off the great play fake touchdown, Dan Johnson.
Johnson's 3rd reception of the year, and did Marino hide that? You got to play him for pass, however, because when they get down there, their pass is like a run.
And the Dolphins 6 minutes and 37 seconds as they drive down the field for the touchdown.
The play fake now. Look at Marino, puts it right on the hip. Johnson is there, wide open. Jets reading it, run all the way.
Well, how about the play fake of Troy Stradford? That guy's 4 feet in the air selling the run.
Quad Reveille for the extra point. John Strock puts it down, and the Miami Dolphins, who were so futile a week ago, come out of the box with an explosive drive, a perfectly executed drive, 6 first downs, and a touchdown.
Well, the play action faking is what set this play. It was marvelous handling of the football in the backfield, and Troy Stradford sells the play. Let Stradford go to the air. Now, if you're a New York Jet, you've got to honor that. They did, and the result, Miami touchdown. Wonder where they thought the ball was.
So 80 yards. They picked up 5 first downs along the way, and a touchdown counts as a first down. So that's 6 first downs on that drive, which culminates with Marino's pass to Johnson for the touchdown. Miami on top 7-0 as Reveille puts the ball in the air and kicks it 3 yards into the end zone, and Humphrey will down it there. And so the Jets will start their first drive from the 20-yard line with 8:16 left in the first quarter in Miami. So the New York Jets have the football for the first time tonight. They start this drive from their own 20. Miami started its drive from the 20. Went all the way. 46 of the 80 yards for Miami on the ground after they were held to a total of 23 rushing last week. First and 10. The Jets, as they're prone to do a lot, start with a double tight end with Cleaver going in motion and O'Brien to put it up, and he swings it out, and it's dropped by McNeil. It was a forward pass, so it's incomplete. Second down.
Plays like that got Freeman McNeil on the bench one time as Joe Walton benched him in favor of Johnny Hector. And this is not the way to start a football game, either giving confidence to your quarterback or to yourself. Took his eyes off it. He caught 7 balls last week against Cincinnati. He just took his eyes off that, and that was a good shot of it. You could see it.
Second and 10 from the 20-yard line. Cleaver coming in motion. And McNeil finding no room at all. Stopped behind the line of scrimmage by John Boza, the #1 draft choice out of Boston College. And the Jets 3rd and 9 with Ken O'Brien at quarterback. And O'Brien behind him tonight has Freeman McNeil starting with Johnny Hector, I'm sure, to see a lot of action as well. The rookie Roger Vick, and then Toon and Sohn. Remember, Wesley Walker is on injured reserve. And there is the offensive line, which is somewhat back to normal or getting back to normal. Reggie McElroy, among others, is back. 3rd down and 9. The Jets have not been proficient in these situations this season. Hector and McNeil are the backs out of the shotgun with O'Brien throwing, and it's tipped incomplete. One of the Dolphins got a hand on it. Might have been Rick Graff, the linebacker, and the Jets to do the kicking, and it was Graff.
Graff, of course, replacing Bob Brzezinski as Shula trying to shake up that defense. And Dan spoke of emotion a while ago. You can almost smell it up here, and you smell it all on the right side. The Dolphins are fired up. They're jumping up and down on every play, and the Jets, at this point, just lifeless.
Dave Jennings to do the kicking. And the rookie, Scott Schwades, is back at his own 40-yard line. Jennings, a low gross average this year, but a very high net average. Schwades at the 41. Into Jet territory and nearly broke it, but a marker is thrown as he got it back to the 42-yard line. Tracy Martin making the stop, but Bob Frederick with the upcoming call.
Highly uncharacteristic of the Jets. Their punt coverage has been great this year.
And that will negate most of the run back.
Offensive holding on the kick return team, number 52. It will be a first down and 10.
Scott Nicholas is the man charged with the penalty, and so that pushes Miami back to its own 40.
On the punt return, this is Scott Nicholas blocking on Ken Rose. When they get right here, watch his right arm. Watch him hook his jersey right there. You see how he has a hold of it? That official downfield spotted it and called the hold.
Back live on 1st and 10 from the 40-yard line. It's Marino throwing complete at the 49-yard line. The catch made there by Mark Clayton, shy of the first down by about a yard. It'll be 2nd and 1.
That time a little pressure on Marino as Marty Lyons got in there, flushed him out of the pocket. They were still able to get the completion.
And they spotted closer to the 40. They call it 2nd down and 2 now. Clayton with 18 receptions, 18 touchdown receptions in a season, and that's being challenged now by Jerry Rice of the 49ers, who has 15. This is Davenport trying to thread his way for a first down and gets to midfield, hit there by Bob Crable, the 60-year linebacker, number 50. And they have to get to just across the 50-yard line, so Marino looking over to the bench and telling Shula he's about half a yard shy.
1 yard, 3rd and 1.
3rd down and inches from the 50. 6 minutes to play, first quarter. Dolphins on top after a very impressive first drive, leading by a score of 7-0. Bennett and Hanson are the running backs with a double tight end set, and Marino on 3rd and 1 has it tipped and incomplete. Tried to hit Hampton, and it was Barry Bennett who blocked Jim Breach's field goal attempt last week. Miano picked it up, went in for a touchdown to provide the Jets with a win over Cincinnati, who batted it down.
Yeah, that's good defense because the Dolphins have the Jets thinking run all the way. They were so successful on that first drive, and they were able to play the run on that run fake and also come up with a good defensive play against the pass.
JoJo Townsell, that long of 91 yards came in the Monday night game against Seattle. Reggie Roby to do the kicking. And it's a low line drive kick. Townsell fields at the 21-yard line and brings it back out to the 30. So only a 20-yard net after the run back, and the Jets take over at the 30-yard line. Renee Thompson making the tackle. We talked about Jerry Rice, and we'll see him next week. And what a matchup. The two teams with the best records in the National Football League, each 10-2. The Chicago Bears coming off their thrilling win last night at Minnesota against the San Francisco 49ers, who beat Green Bay yesterday. Next Monday night from Candlestick Park.
What a year Montana's having.
1st and 10, Jets from their own 31-yard line. And it's Roger Vick. Stop near the line of scrimmage at the 30-yard line, and it's John Bosa, who's been taking some heat. He's the #1 draft choice, was a holdout, signed late, and they're making a big issue over the fact that he does not have a sack this season.
Although that's something that's really not bothering Don Shula. He says, I know that's the type of thing that's going to come. There's John Offerdahl, and that is how you take on a blocker, as he just puts the hurt to Jim Sweeney, the left tackle, and in on the play as well. But the disruption initially came from John Bosa. Good 2-3 yards in the backfield.
2nd and 11. O'Brien slings one complete out to the 35-yard line to Kurt Sohn. And forward progress will take it to the 36 and set up a 3rd down and 5. Chip and Graff in on the tackle.
That time a little bit of pressure on the part of Miami, but they only have 12 sacks. And this defensive line, the front three there, they only have collectively 4 between them. And so we talk about John Bosa. If he had 3 sacks, he'd lead the Dolphins. So he's not far behind. They just are not a good pass pressure team, and consequently the Jets feel that if they can keep themselves out of the 3rd and a lot of long yardage, they can say 3rd, 5, 3rd, or 6. They're going to be in good shape all night.
Jets with a 3rd down and 5. And a lot of time for O'Brien, but he has it picked off at the 45-yard line by Paul Langford. Inside the 20, the 10, and Langford takes it down to the 1-yard line.
O'Brien tried to squeeze it in between defenders. No chance at all.
Yeah, Langford was lined up on the man to the inside. Dan Marino's trying to work, Kenny O'Brien trying to work the ball to the outside. Doesn't see Langford. You see him react back from the inside. And without being seen, it's a sprint to the goal line. And, boy, he'll take a little ribbing from his teammates about not getting into the end zone. Being caught by an offensive lineman, of all things, Jim Sweeney.
Langford takes it inside the 1, first and goal, Miami, as they try to go up by 14. And it's Hansen not getting in. Stopped just shy of the goal line, and it's second down and goal. Paul Langford.
Well, I guess the Dolphins figure the turnabout is fair play after falling behind to Buffalo last week. It's certainly a lot better to be on the other side of things, and that's what they're on the verge of doing right now to the Jets, climbing out to a 2-touchdown lead still in the first quarter.
And this is a team playing with emotion tonight.
Diving in, Stradford, touchdown.
Same dive as before, just that time he had the ball. Maybe said to Dan Marino, if I'm going to go to all the work to sell your play pass touchdowns, maybe you can do me a favor and give me the ball. This guy could jump, though, Frank.
Takes him 3 yards out. Topsy-turvy right into the end zone.
That's good-looking football right there. From behind, Troy Stradford to the air, and that's why you wear shoulder pads.
The team whose attention was got this past week by Don Shula.
Yes. You think so? You think so?
Reves boots it through, and the Miami Dolphins. One long drive and then cashed in on an interception. And with 3:23 to go in the first quarter, they lead 14-0. Dan wasn't here last year, but remember we did the Jets and the Dolphins on Monday night, and what happened?
Oh, you know, we said earlier we don't know which team is going to show up anymore and after the strike. Well, I think the Bears showed up tonight.
We may need a Bo Jackson if this keeps going.
Yeah, where's Bo when we really need him? 14-0 is the score last year in the Monday night game between these two teams. The Jets came in with a 9-game winning streak, and Miami won it by a score of 45-3.
And the Jets never won again. That's till the end of the season, until they got into the playoffs to beat Kansas City.
They lost their last 5 before beating Kansas City in a wild card game. 14-0. Reves checking off, and it's taken at the 3-yard line by Humphrey. The 20, the 30, the 40, and Humphrey out to midfield. And he's tackled by Fuad Reves. And most teams in recent weeks, and there's Reves limping off, have been kicking away. They've been squib kicking away from Humphrey and Townsend. And this time they test him, and Humphrey burns him.
Well, so why? He can take it back any time, and he has. Historically, they just like to stay away from him, but he does it. The only way he can be a good kick return man is the way he does it. Total abandon. He hopes the opening's going to be there. It was.
Well, you have to be decisive. You can't be moving parallel. But that time, with a good move, Reves, give him credit. That's a touchdown New York if he doesn't throw his body into the fray.
Jets at the Miami 49 after that 47-yard run back, and O'Brien to put it up, and O'Brien has to run with it and gets back to the line of scrimmage. So there is no sack. It is John Bosa with no game but close to a sack, and the Dolphins have not had a sack in 3.5 games.
And that is the risk that an offensive team runs when they only send out 2 receivers. That time they tested Judson and Langford, and what happened is Kenny O'Brien had absolutely nowhere to go. Both the outside receivers are covered. He does the smart thing, Frank, and try to get back to the line of scrimmage.
You're right. You protect the quarterback. A good coverage job by Judson on Al Toon. That's where O'Brien wanted to go, and Judson was all over him.
At the 49, and this has the look of a replay situation.
Well, what could they possibly be replaying? There's no play that...
Bob Frederick is the referee.
It was an erroneous buzz. From instant replay officials, we will continue.
The old erroneous buzz.
New terminology. Every week we break new ground. You see the guy in the replay booth go to the phone. What are you putting us on camera for?
Sounds like a new drug.
Hey, by the way, on that last play, since it was a half-yard loss, it goes into the book as a sack for Bosa. He finally gets one. So it's 2nd and 10.5, and this is Hector going nowhere. Stopped by Bosa. So the number 1 draft choice out of Boston College having a real hot quarter.
Well, John Bosa just lines up. This is him right here. Watch him just get upfield. Nothing simple. I mean, nothing fancy about this at all. The inside move, and If you're blocking him, Joe Fields, the left guard, you've got to do a little better than that. You want to take your man to the inside, but you can't allow that much penetration. John Boza coming to life here in front of the hometown folks.
3rd down and 13 from the 48-yard line. O'Brien throws, and too high through the hands of Al Toon. And so the Jets have squandered a good run back by Humphrey. Can't pick up the first down, forced to punt.
Oh, you look at Joe Walton. He has got to be upset. It's been his concern all year long. Let's take a look again. It's Boza. Once again, now they put 2 people on him. It's still the big man, the rookie from Boston College, just bullying in there as he works against Bingham and Fields. But this is a very erratic football team at the moment.
And the throw here was high. Al Toon had the first down distance. Working that time against William Judson, who gave him a big cushion. If that throw is anywhere within range, the Jets pick up a first down and keep this drive moving.
Brady stands back at the 10. Dave Jennings to punt in a swirling wind. Fielded right at the 10, and no blocking, and he's buried right there. Brady's taken down by Marion Barber and Nu'u Fa'aola. Miami on top by a score of 14-0. You know, it's funny, we mentioned before, they made a big issue here in the media about the fact Boza has not had a sack. He gets that sack, but I'm sure the crowd is not even aware of it on that half-yard loss by O'Brien as he started to run.
Well, I guess it's a case of 1 sack does not a season make, but still, as Don Shula was telling us, he's not the least bit concerned about John Boza and his ability to be a steady player for the Dolphins for a lot of years.
Miami from the 10-yard line. Stradford, big hole, exploits it for a first down and a lot more out of bounds at the 31-yard line. And the Dolphins look like the old Dolphins.
This is against a defensive team that the Jets wanted in there to begin with. Let's take a look at the line. That's Flecko, number 73.
And look at them move backward. Barry Bennett, number 78, just obliterated on the play. And then Carl Howard misses the tackle in the open field on Stradford. And Miami is, I guess we're going to give Miami a lot of credit for playing well, but defensively, especially here, the New York Jets aren't doing a thing.
Lions back in the lineup. Flecko's in there, as we mentioned. Lance Mel is back in there, hurting in the secondary, but they're being beat up front.
Now the Dolphins send Stradford out to the right as a wide receiver on 1st and 10 from the 31. Marino has all the time in the world, and over the middle he hits Clayton. And Clayton takes the ball down to the 35-yard line. Tackled by Harry Hamilton. And the Dolphins are just shredding the Jets.
This had to happen sooner or later. The secondary is really hurting. Many changes back there.
Mark Clayton is lining up in the slot. He's going to work upfield into the zone coverage, make his break to the inside. And again, Dan Marino, maybe the most decisive quarterback in the game. Clayton with his break to the inside, but the ball thrown before the break. I don't know right now that there's a better quarterback in the game at making that snap decision in his mind and instantly translating it to his arm, getting rid of it.
You see how he released it? It was strictly armed. He did not have to take a step in that direction. He was almost horizontal to the receiver, and he whipped it with his arm, and it was right on target.
Take the 30-second clock back to 30. Clock back to 30.
30-second clock restarts with 40 seconds to play in the period.
That's Mel trying to knock Clayton off. Now Clayton working against the zone, sets up in there. At that point, Marino just rifled it in over the linebackers in front of the secondary. First down, Miami.
At the 34-yard line in the waning seconds of the first quarter, Miami on top 14-0. Stradford on a sweep, but nothing develops, and he's knocked down back at the 42-yard line. Tackled by Alex Gordon, the rookie out of Cincinnati, on what will be the final play of the period. Last week in the entire game, the Dolphins had 13 first downs as they were shut out by Buffalo. Tonight, the Dolphins have 9 first downs in the first quarter alone. And the Jets all season had allowed 20 points in the first period. They give up 2 touchdowns tonight, and we'll start the second period with Miami leading 14-0. Back after this message.
Not all blitzing is on third and long situations. Here's a great illustration of a run blitz by the Jets. Here's Marty Lyons. Watch him go to the outside. Alex Gordon is going to loop behind him and come upfield, and that's why he's so wide open to make that play in the backfield against Troy Stradford. Keep in mind, this is first down. This is a run blitz all the way to play the running attack, and look how well it worked this time for the Jets, getting the play in the backfield for a 5-yard loss.
Exceptionally well for Alex Gordon, who played a lot of down linemen at the University of Cincinnati and does a lot of down line work for the Jets. They had that call. You just had to kind of wonder, Dan, maybe when they saw that motion from viewing the tapes, maybe they even automatics into it.
Well, I'd send Alex Gordon into the middle of things anytime I felt like it. I mean, the guy's a linebacker, but he's 6'5" and 245. I mean, he's not your average size outside linebacker.
And coming back to his home state, he's a native of Jacksonville.
Okay, quiz time. Who's winning?
The Indians. Custer's in deep trouble. He's down to his last troops, I can tell you that.
138-2. Well, we may be seeing our first sub-10-yard offensive performance by the Jets if this continues.
You're going to see a lot of smoke coming out of Joe Walton's ears, not to mention Bud Carson.
As we start the second quarter, Miami on top 14-0. Dolphins at the Jet 40-yard line. Second down, 15. Marino off to a hot start, and so is Stradford, who's picked up 51 yards on the ground thus far. Marino throws over the middle, hits Stradford, and Stradford is taken out of bounds at the 31-yard line by the cornerback Carl Howard, and it will be third down and 6 as he picks up 9.
You know, it's the Jets that time giving the Dolphins a look of like there were 5 defensive linemen in the game. They play their 4 guys down across the front, and then Alex Gordon gets down to the outside, and a lot of times that can confuse an offensive team whether to treat him as a linebacker or a defensive end. Who blocks him, a tackle or a running back?
Good look, too, at Pleco and Gastineau in the deal. Pleco to the outside and Gastineau swinging in the inside, trying to use Gastineau's speed.
Third and 6 from the 31 out of the shotgun. Jim Jensen is in there next to Marino. And Jensen stays in the block. Marino throws, has the first down, hits Clayton at the 21-yard line. He fumbles the ball, and the play is whistled dead, though, at the 20-yard line. Stradford picked it up and took it down to the 11, but it's whistled dead at the 21st down.
And that means there'll be no replay. If the official spots the ball down, blows the whistle, even if it was a fumble, even if that ball did come loose, that's it. No replay.
Little crossing pattern, and it was Clayton taking it deep, and a good pickup by that offensive line. The blitz was on by the Jets. They were able to pick it up, and there is the extra yard. And Stradford all over the football field.
It's funny, Clayton had the look of a guy trying to pick up the first down when actually he was 5 yards in front. He might have thought he had to get it across the 20 when in fact he only had to get inside the 25. He had that sort of a move.
Yeah, you're exactly right. That's it.
From the 19-yard line, it's Marino going for the end zone, too high, intended for Dan Johnson, who caught the earlier touchdown pass. Rich Miano covering.
That's the only way that Dan Marino can throw that ball. It's zone coverage. He's got a man short. He's got a man deep. He's got to put an arc and drop it over the top. So if you're any way with this ball but perfect, you've got to be long. Make your guy jump for it. Johnson has to go up in the air. The ball's a little overthrown, but you saw Lance Mel there short. How's Dan Marino going to throw it any other place?
Well, that super slow-mo, we needed John Facenda to narrate that one.
I almost ran out of air by the time the ball got there.
Second down and 10. Stradford reverses his direction and takes the ball down to the 11-yard line. Tackled by the safety, Harry Hamilton.
Oh, what a find Stradford was. 4th-round draft pick out of Boston College. Came in tonight, the leading rusher, leading receiver. He hasn't hurt that whatsoever.
Well, Troy Stradford, Frank, is actually 2 stories in one. One is what a find he is, being a 4th-round draft choice, carrying the ball for the Miami Dolphins, but at the same time, it's Lorenzo Hampton, their number 1 draft choice of a couple of years ago, that isn't playing.
Almost relegated to special teams, running back kickoff. He was the big man a year ago, Al, in the 45-3 win.
Third down and 1. And moving through the middle again is Stradford, and he takes the ball down to the 9-yard line and should have the first down. Miano in on the tackle, and Carson can only shake his head.
Try to get them together. More intensity, you would guess. Little talk about Bud Carson this past week about the possibility that he might be going to North Carolina. He's an alumnus of North Carolina, where he played defensive back there several years ago, many years ago, as a matter of fact, but one of the fine defensive coaches around. Took 2 Steelers defensive units to the Super Bowls in the 70s, and could be that he's having active conversations with the University of North Carolina on that job vacated by Dick Crum.
This keeps up. He could leave before the half. First and goal from the 8. Davenport down to the 5 to make it second and goal. Carl Howard comes up to make the tackle. Ron Davenport with 13 touchdowns in his rookie season. Decent receiver. Of late, though, in the last couple of weeks, they've been utilizing Woody Bennett, their longtime fullback, more and more. Bennett's more of the blocking back sort. Second and goal. Marino throwing and down to the 2-yard line, taken there by Davenport. And it will be third down and goal.
I think his primary receiver that time was Dan Johnson, the tight end, who was working a route into the end zone. Ron Davenport is nothing more than a guy that goes out, sits down, and tries to get open, but it's only a couple of yards on the pickup. And still, though, when you've got a quarterback like Dan Marino, you're not afraid to take that chance. You know, that's a risky pass. He throws that into a crowd. Davenport's able to hold on to it, but you know, you really have to say, is the gain worth the risk throwing down there near the goal line?
And it's third down and goal, and the Jets take a timeout. The Jets were waiting to see which alignment the Dolphins were going to use, and the Dolphins sent in their passing set with Jensen as the blocking back, and then the Jets came in late with Gastineau and the others for the pass rush and didn't feel comfortable defensively, and so the Jets take a timeout before the Dolphins come up with third and goal.
I think the Jets only had 10 men on the field.
Could be. And Bob Frederick said, hold everything before third and goal.
And it could have been that the Jets, as Dan counted earlier, that they might have only had 10 players on the field, and now they got 11.
They got 12.
12 had one leaving.
Oh, this is... the Jets have really looked bad here the last 2 plays.
They had to take a timeout. Now it's third and goal. Marino out of the shotgun, sends Jensen in motion.
Oh, no.
And throws, but the play was whistled dead. Duper caught the pass, but the play was dead at the outset. No touchdown.
Yeah, the whistles were blowing before the plays even run. Mark knows it. Look at him laugh.
Well, the contact made in the middle, and the whistles will blow with that contact.
Could have been Klecko. Klecko was across the line. Was he drawn? We'll find out.
There was encroachment on number 73 of the defense, and the whistle is blown, and therefore it will be a penalty. There was no play, and there will be a 5-yard penalty, a pass the distance penalty.
Can't miss him. Here's Joe Klecko. The motion, for some reason, seems to confuse him. I don't know if he loses concentration when he loses sight of Dan Marino, but the big bark by Dan draws Joe clear across the ball. No doubt of that one.
Changes everything, too, because now it's going to be third down goal to go, and the ball at the 1-yard line. And you can think run, you can think over the top with Stradford, and again, there's a tremendous change, like a fire drill going on out there as the personnel changes, but this could be either pass or run, or play pass.
The Dolphins have their running set in here.
And the Jets just ran 7 men onto the field.
Double tight end set up with 2 backs on third and goal from the 1. Stradford tries to burrow his way in. Touchdown. He's in there. Troy Stradford went over the top for 1 touchdown and underground here for the other.
You just completely lose sight of Stradford. He gets the lead block from Ron Davenport. Good blocking on the left side by John Giesler. And just there you could see the football as it got across the goal line. No sight of Troy Stradford. We could only see the ball from that angle. Here from above. Good. Ooh, the knee was down. Did you see the knee get down before the goal line?
Gervais kicks it wide to the right. And that's about the only thing the Dolphins have done wrong so far. That's the first extra point he has missed. So Stradford has taken the high road and the low road to score twice.
Again, we'll look at the touchdown. Watch his knee. See where it lands. Driving into the end zone. His knee's down on the 1-yard line, folks. Had the ball broken the plane.
Gervais made a tackle on Bobby Humphrey before, was shaken up, missed that extra point, has his thigh wrapped, encased in ice, and so Reggie Roby will kick off for Miami with a score 20-0 Dolphins.
Miami has had to make a lot of adjustments this year in their kicking game. Remember when Reggie Roby got hurt in that game up in New England?
Opening day.
Don Strock had to come in and do the punting. This has not been an easy year for the guys kicking the balls here in Miami.
And on opening day in New England, it looked like Roby might be out for the entire season the way he went down. But he spent some time on IR and came off the list. His kickoff here is taken at the 18-yard line and run back only to the 21 by Nu'u Fa'aola. So the score, 20-0 in favor of the Dolphins here in the second quarter. And this ABC Sports exclusive is being brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, engineered like no other car in the world. And the Dolphins looking very much like a well-tuned Mercedes thus far.
By any chance, did you happen to notice Reggie Roby look at his watch when he was jogging off the field right there? The guy wears his wristwatch while he plays.
From the 21-yard line, Johnny Hector is pushed back by Offerdahl and Bosa, providing the assist. Offerdahl, good-looking rookie last year out of Western Michigan. He was the number 2 draft choice, and that was the highest choice Miami had, and wound up in the Pro Bowl.
And he played great. Missed a few weeks earlier with a torn bicep on IR, but he's come back, and he really is the heart of that defensive unit. And, of course, they expect great things from John Bosa. John Bosa looked good tonight, both of them playing on their right side. Jets apparently going right back to what they would have liked to start it tonight with, trying to get something happening, even at 20, being down 20-0.
Second down and 8, and O'Brien off the play fake, swings it out, and it's Roger Vick with a big gain out to the 46-yard line. Stopped by Glenn Blackwood. And so the Jets have it out near midfield. Roger Vick, the number 1 draft choice, and he's been very inconsistent, but has looked better of late. Had his best game last week against Cincinnati.
And that time a mistake in coverage by the Miami Dolphins. I think Jackie Shipp, the inside linebacker, should have had coverage on Roger Vick. You see him get in there on the play late, but when Roger was out into the flat, there wasn't a Dolphin within 5 yards of it.
23-yard gain out to the 46-yard line. Back on the ground with Hector squirting to the 49-yard line. Stopped by Brian Sochet, and a marker is down. One problem for the Jets, too, is Bob Frederick gets the call, and he'll give it to us in a second. They're missing their big play guy. Wesley Walker is a guy who's killed the Dolphins in the past, and this penalty will go against the Jets. So they're down by 20, and no Wesley Walker.
It does change the complexion. Toon being so much better as a control and a possession type of receiver. He is the big man now that they have to consider on deep. Here's Bob Frederick.
Illegal formation on the offense, and the down will be replayed.
Here's the illegal formation, folks. Somebody has to be on the line of scrimmage. All 3 of these receivers are off the ball. One of them has to be up here on the line of scrimmage to cover up that tackle, or else that tackle was an eligible receiver on the play.
So they had 6 men on the line of scrimmage and 5 in the backfield, and I think as Hector takes the ball out to the 44-yard line.
It's a rescue run, and occasionally you get caught. Not very often for the Jets, and they probably use as many formations as anyone in football. But getting back to Wesley Walker, that 51-45 win up in Shea Stadium, or rather Giant Stadium a year ago, Wesley Walker had 6 receptions, 194 yards, and he makes a major difference when he's not in there.
Second and 11 from the 44. O'Brien pressured, throws complete to Hector. And Hector is taken down at the 49-yard line by Lippert Hobley, and that time Offerdahl put the pressure on Ken O'Brien.
Well, both of the Dolphin inside linebackers blitzed on that play. A good look here at John Offerdahl all by himself. You saw Ship draw the block, and John comes clean, and you know, you really have to qualify that as a mistake by a linebacker. When you come in that clean, you get a shot at the quarterback. To allow him to get rid of the football is something that John Offerdahl right now is not very pleased about.
7:50 to play, first half. 20-0 Miami. Dolphins were a 4 to 5 point pick. Third down and 8 from the 48. O'Brien steps up, throws, and it's caught at the 40 by Sohn for a first down. Glenn Blackwood covering on the play. Blackwood has moved from strong safety to free safety in the absence of Bud Brown.
Sohn, an underneath receiver, filling in for Wesley Walker, whom we were talking about a moment ago. And 1 of 5 Jets, and maybe Dr. Nicholas should be their most valuable player, but 1 of 5 players starting tonight, offensively and defensively, with reconstructed knee surgeries over the years.
First and 10 from the 40-yard line. Hector stopped for no gain. And you know that Steve Hurd is in the truck when the graphic pops up on Sohn, only active player from Fordham University. The Rams this year were 10-2 in Division III.
Who told you that?
A little birdie. The little Seahawk told me that.
I know you're a Fordham season ticket holder, Al. I know you're at all the games. Dan's little Seahawk still circling up there, perhaps. That is another story. We'll get to that.
We better. We may need that story. Second and 10 from the 40. O'Brien has it tipped. Intended for Rocky Cleaver.
O'Brien again wanted Toon deep, and Toon was well covered once again by William Judson. He also had help in the middle from Glenn Blackwood, who, as Al mentioned, is playing out of position, a free safety. And in a hurry, O'Brien tried to get it to Cleaver and overthrew it. Well, Kenny's got to be really upset with himself. It's not often a quarterback gets to stand in the pocket as long as Ken O'Brien got to stand there and survey the field that time. He had a good 5 or 6 seconds. And then ultimately, when he decided to let it go, it just took off on him and was a good 2 yards high.
On third and 10. O'Brien nearly sacked, is able to shovel it, but he was in the grasp and control, as the phrase goes, of David Fry, the linebacker.
And for a team that only had 12 sacks coming into the night, only 7 by the players that are active, they are getting a tremendous amount of pressure against an offensive line that the Jets really wanted to open the season with. And there is that pressure, and there comes Fry. And they call it in the grasp, very close, but they were very definite about it also. Well, look at what the Dolphins came with that time. Paul Langford, the corner, came on a corner blitz. David Fry came on a blitz up the middle. And they brought 8 guys at the quarterback. And when you can do that, Dan, you know you're very confident. Things are going your way. Yeah, they're playing like they have a 20-point lead.
Jennings kicking. Good. Deep kick. And it bounces into the end zone for the touchback. So it will come out to the 20-yard line with 5:45 remaining in a first half dominated by the Dolphins. 20-0.
They're winning.
Our lineup this Saturday for you at 2 Eastern Time. Mercedes-Benz presents the 1987 College Football All-America team. And then following that, college basketball, you'll see either St. John's taking on UCLA or Maryland against LSU at 2:30 Eastern, followed at 4:30 Eastern Saturday from Cuba. The United States against Cuba in amateur boxing. Our Saturday sports lineup here on ABC. Al Michaels with Frank Gifford, Dan Deerdorf at Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami. 20-0. The Dolphins on top, and they have a first and 10 at their own 20-yard line. And Marino to the air with a lot of time, and over the middle to the tight end, Dan Johnson, out to the 41-yard line. A gain of 21 for the man who caught Marino's first touchdown pass.
And this time the Jets are just sitting back in the zone, and Miami, they've got different routes. The receivers break them off, whether it's zone or man-to-man, and I mean, this is the type of a passing attack that's tough to sit back, Frank, in that zone, and look what Miami's done with it.
And if you sit back there and don't pressure Marino, he's going to do just that to you. Give him time, and he'll be heading for a 300 or 400-yard night.
First and 10 at the 41-yard line. And it's Tony Nathan in motion, and Stradford takes the pitch and gets knocked down as Howard comes up from the corner to knock him down for the loss.
Interesting about Carl Howard, he was around 4 years and only made 3 starts over those 4 years until this year, and he started 3 of the last 4 games in a very beat-up Jet secondary. Russell Carter moved over in the left corner, replaced Jerry Holmes. Kerry Glynn went on IR this past week. They've got 4 regulars out of there. They started 7 different defensive backs this year. That's very tough when you're playing against somebody like Marino.
And they're also missing the safety Lester Lyles on injured reserve. On second down and 14, Marino rolling and then throwing to the sideline, and it's caught at the 49-yard line by Bruce Hardy, the other tight end. Alex Gordon with the coverage.
Is that a good-looking play with Dan Marino on the designed rollout all the way? His entire offensive line floats with him. Woody Bennett out front. Watch the entire line. This group right here, watch how they all end up over here as Dan Marino comes on the roll. I mean, you talk about a floating pocket. His entire line is going to work its way along the line of scrimmage and get out in front of the Dolphin quarterback. Look at that armada in front of Dan Marino.
And there was no other arm in the game like that.
He's doing a little John Elway imitation there.
Third down and 2 from the 50. Stradford takes the inside handoff, escapes Gastineau, comes back the other way for the first down inside the 40 to the 30-yard line. Gastineau couldn't bring him down. He would have stopped him for about a 5-yard loss, and instead another big play for the Dolphins.
And the hard luck season of Mark Gastineau may be really exemplified by this one play. I mean, he has Stradford all wrapped up. For some reason, the little guy doesn't go down. He's only 5'9". Pretty good leg strength, fighting off Gastineau and turning it into a big play.
It's getting better for Gastineau, but he still does not have the great agility. And the man who was really stunned was Dan Marino. He was out in front of this. Bottom of your screen, thought about blocking, thought better of it, and Don Shula breathed a sigh of relief when he didn't.
Good tackle that time by right guard Tom Toth.
Over the middle and wide open on first down is Ron Davenport, the fullback, taking it to the 20-yard line.
This is called pick them apart. They're doing just about anything and everything they want. Everything seems to be working for them. They fumble the football. It fumbles right into their hands. They get a broken play. Stradford turns it into a big gainer. And when you're hot, you're hot. When you're playing with emotion, that's how it works.
Speaking of a man with a great deal of emotion, when we talked to Joe Walton, he sure was quick to point out about the possibilities of a wild card team coming out of the AFC East this year. He was a little upset that a lot of the media just assumed that the wild card teams were going to come from the West and maybe someone from the Central, and what we're calling it the AFC least. He didn't like that at all.
He's pacing the sidelines. He's upset. Interesting stories, as there are so many of them in pro football. In 1957, he was Don Shula's roommate with the Washington Redskins. Came up, top draft picks in the Pittsburgh Panthers, and here's Don Shula. He was there as a cornerback. They tried Joe Walton as a cornerback initially, and then he moved to tight end and later, of course, played for the Giants. But at the beginning of Joe Walton's career, he roomed with Don Shula.
Second and inches at the 21-yard line. What amounts to a free play, has it knocked down. Nice move by Carl Howard, who comes in to get a hand in front of Bruce Hardy and create a 3rd and 1.
Aggressive play that time by Howard. I think there was a little bit of moaning going on in the stands here at Joe Robbie Stadium. They thought that Howard interfered on the play. Let's take a look. You be the judge.
He did get around there a little bit.
You be the judge.
That's called aggressive. Let's leave it at that.
2-minute warning in Miami. What an auspicious beginning for the Miami Dolphin franchise. Their first game ever, 1966. They met the then Oakland Raiders at the Orange Bowl. The opening kickoff of the game, Joe Auer took it at the 5-yard line, and the native of nearby Coral Gables was able to run it in, just barely getting in, as he opens the game with a touchdown. And at that time, one of the partners in the franchise was Danny Thomas in 1966, but Oakland went on to win the game 23-14. Miami on top by a score of 20-0 as it's 3rd and 1 at the Jet 21-yard line. And Marino off play action has to throw it low at the feet of Dan Johnson and incomplete as he was pressured. Pressure that time coming from the linebacker Gordon.
And a good look at Dan Marino right there telling Dan Johnson, come back to me. Come back. You got to come back and help me out.
That's a good call also. They've been running the football, and they know the Jets have to think pass. Good defensive play by the Jets, and Don Shula had already decided he was going to go on 4th down if they did not get the completion, and that's exactly what they're going to do, leading 20-0.
And also Reveiz is hurt, so it makes his decision that much easier.
Comes academic.
4th down and 1 from the 21. Stradford, and he's bottled up at the 21-yard line. Barry Bennett leading the charge. It's 3rd, and we called it 1. It's 3rd and inches, so we'll see about the spot here. 4th down and inches.
Oh, we've got a little scuffle going on now. A little territorial scuffle. Barry Bennett that time had the initial penetration. Marty Lyons, the last guy off the ground, and I'm not so sure that they are going to pick this one up. Slow developing play out of the eye, and the Jets won the battle on the line of scrimmage that time.
Ooh, they did get it. They have it. Troy Stradford picked in the 4th round. He was the 99th player selected in the draft out of Boston College. And there he is, 2 touchdowns tonight, and picks up the 1st down here. Stradford had that great game against Dallas, the terrible game against Buffalo, and he's back on the beam tonight.
This average is going to be just fine.
1st and 10. 1:20 to play in the half. Hampton is now in there. And the pass is out of bounds. Cooper had it, but he was out of bounds.
And another look from behind the play, but look at the pass protection. The New York Jets in their vaunted sack exchange. A good look there as the left foot was out of bounds. We've got an injured player down on the field. I don't think we have this player ID'd yet.
No, not yet.
We won't dare speculate till we're sure who it is. And is that 56? Is that Lance Mel? I thought I saw a 5 and a 6.
I did see a 5. It appears to be.
Yeah, that is Lance Mel, the injured Jet. And
one of those
we've already passed along how he's battled his way back from reconstructive knee surgery. And if you have a heart right now, it's beating a little faster thinking about Lance Mel. And there you get
right
a perfect look. I think that was Lorenzo Hampton that fell onto the left knee of Lance Mel.
That knee was reconstructed last year, and Lance has worked and slaved and finally got himself back into the lineup as a starter, and this being his 3rd start, is getting back to all the moves that he had.
The only thing we can hope is that he was wearing a protective brace, which so many players in the National Football League and the NCAA do now. They wear even on the high school level, and if the blow is from a certain angle, that brace can be all the help in the world. It could be the difference between playing later in the game and not playing the rest of the season.
Saw it yesterday with John Elway, and when he was hit in the game against New England, and the brace actually threw him forward. And, of course, he does wear that brace, and I'm sure it saved a very severe injury to John Elway yesterday. Trying to get a definitive word on Lance Mel. He means much more than just talent in that lineup for the Jets. A very spirited player along with Joe Klecko, and they have been hurting without them, and now Lance Mel is leaving the field.
Well, that's what helped doing the Jets last year after that great start when their key people started going down. They really never recovered, even though they gave a great account of themselves in the playoffs, and in fact got very close to winding up in the AFC Championship game, taking Cleveland into double overtime.
If there's anything encouraging that I saw there, it's that when Lance Mel was walking off the field, he was putting weight onto the knee. He was putting weight onto his left leg, and I don't want to minimize it at all, but I've had 3 knee operations, and when I was really hurt, I wasn't able to put any weight on the leg at all, so we're hoping for the best.
Second down and 10. Miami now at the 20-yard line. Marino throwing and dropped by Davenport. And a marker. A penalty marker is down at the 7-yard line.
Boy, did it come in late, too, from out of the end zone. And I guess it figures. You're going to go bad. Go real bad.
Defensive holding, number 27, first down.
Well, that's Russell Carter, and he's working that time against Mark Clayton. Well, here it is on the ISO. That's the bump in the 5-yard zone. Now they're out of the 5-yard zone, and don't need to be a genius to figure that out, Russell. That's going to cost your team 5 and an automatic first down.
Way away from the play. He was not. Marino was only concentrating on Davenport all the way, so that really hurt.
First and 10 from the 15. Dolphins had a sure touchdown, slipped through his hands as Stradford takes the ball down to the 11-yard line. And Mel on the bench, and we'll get a report for you.
All I can tell you is that to fight your way back, the year and a half that you're out of the game, to fight your way back, it all floods through your mind while you're being wheeled off.
On 2nd and 7, it's Davenport who takes the ball down to the 6-yard line and close to a first down. He appears to be about a half-yard shy.
You know, Dan, I don't think people can realize how lonely that life is of rehabilitation. You're talking about not 2 months, 3 months. You're talking 6 months, sometimes even a year, and you are all alone with your dreams, your thoughts. Will I ever? Can I ever? You're in that training room all by yourself. You normally don't go to meetings with the rest of the team. They leave on Saturday to go to the games. You go home to stay home with your wife and kids. After the games, they share in the fun of winning. You don't normally even go because you weren't a part of it, and you talk about being on the outside looking in. You can sympathize with a Lance Mel as he goes up the tunnel to be looked at further by the doctors of the Jets.
Miami has taken a timeout with 32 seconds left in the half. And coming up at halftime, look at Vinny Testaverde, the number 1 choice in last spring's draft. And we'll clarify the NFC playoff picture for you. Bob Greasy will be joining us as well at halftime. Dolphins have 2 timeouts remaining. They have a 3rd down and inches at the 6-yard line. Miami on top, 20-0. A thoroughly dominant first half for the Dolphins. And Marino throwing too high. And a marker.
This one thrown from the far side, you have to think it's some sort of encroachment on the line of scrimmage.
Or did the Jets have an extra man on the field? Instead of the 10 they had before, they may have had 12 here.
More than 11 men on the defense. Half the distance.
Well, this is
First down.
at
Will be
least
a first down.
okay. It's the first time, huh?
This often happens, Dan, when you lose a player, an injured player like Lance Mel, because he ordinarily is in there, and you don't make the adjustment.
Look at him right there, folks. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 13 guys in there, I think. Go to work, boys. It's like fortune cookie wrapper.
And a big play. It's a first down at the 3-yard line. First and goal. Stradford seeks his third touchdown of the night and has it. He's in there. Stradford back of Davenport.
He got a good block from Davenport, and he did break the play before he was hammered out of the end zone. And this young man is running tough tonight. You don't have to stay in the end zone. You just have to get there. Here's our view from right on the goal line. Troy Stradford behind the good lead blocking. Look at that solid blocking, but from a yard and a half out, he has to do it on his own.
That's twice.
Boy, now we're shooting it right between the hands of the head linesman, and I have a feeling that this one may go upstairs.
They were about ready to snap the football before it could even be considered.
Al Sabato is the replay official.
Earlier we had an erroneous buzzer. This time we almost had a late buzzer. Let's take a look again. And while we're looking again, watch the lead block by number 30. Terrific by Davenport. And now just has to touch the goal line. And you got 6 points. Ever so close.
The key here, are the replay officials going to see enough to overturn the call on the field? That is, I mean, that's what we're talking about. They have to have conclusive evidence to overturn the guys on the field.
Burl Toller is the head linesman, and he was the man who came in to make the call. It was his call.
While we're waiting this out, Burl Toller was one of the great football players USF ever turned out. Got hurt in the college all-star game and was never able to play. One of the fine officials around.
And Frank, you wonder what's going through his mind right now, because he knows it's his call that's being reviewed. Now, granted, from that angle, it doesn't look like it crossed the plane. Are we dead on the goal line? Well, that's a good question, Frank. And again, I'm going to remind our viewers, there has to be conclusive evidence in the minds of the replay officials to overturn that man's call.
If they overturn it, they still have 23 seconds and 2 timeouts, and they'd have a second down at the 1 millimeter line.
I think they're communicating their decision down to the field right now. They're talking. The helmet's over, but look at the ball. The ball's back, being held against his numbers.
And they may be having a communication problem, because now they're going to come over to the Miami bench and pick up a phone.
Earlier we had an erroneous buzz.
Yep, that sounded exciting.
Maybe they're going to ask Don Shula whether he thinks it's a touchdown or not. Think he could be impartial?
Well, he's in total control of this football game at the moment. Funny how this game changes. Blown out 27-0
Of course,
a week ago.
The people who hate instant replay, this is all the ammunition they need.
They love it.
Yeah.
Al, I think your call there on the communication equipment not working is correct, because they had to go to the phone. They're not going to... Miami offensive team's coming back out on the field.
Upon review by instant replay, the play has been reversed. It has not been a touchdown, and it will be second down and goal, and the ball will be placed 3 yards.
Oh, look at him upstairs.
They made the decision that the problem in the delay was a communication problem. And that's just a small victory for Joe Walton, because they've got 2 timeouts and they got a couple of inches to go. And it's second down.
A troubling season for Joe Walton. Up, down, never really able to determine what his team is going to do on any given Sunday, and that troubles him perhaps more than winning or losing. He drafts and he keeps players based purely on their output, whether or not they really come to play on every game. And this has been a very troubled time for him.
Dan Marino argued that the 30-second clock should be reset. He won his case. They put it back up at 30.
The eye back is Stradford. He gets it, and this time he's in again, they say. Kohler says he made it again.
They don't need to look at this one.
And for the moment, it is a touchdown.
Well, what are the odds of us looking at this from the goal line and getting the call from Burl Kohler again? Hey, what do you know? In motion across the formation was Woody Bennett. Again, the lead block, and Troy Stradford. This guy goes to the air, stays low. Either way you look at it, this guy's making a habit of getting into the jet end zone.
You could play a tape back of the game a year ago between these same two teams. All you'd have to do is replace Lorenzo Hampton with Troy Stradford as Gervais comes off the bench to boot it through. Last year, Hampton scored 3 first-half touchdowns. Tonight, Stradford 3 first-half touchdowns, and it's 27-0 Miami.
With the exception being, Al, that a year ago, Joe Plecko did not start, Marty Lyons did not start, nor did Mark Gastineau. They basically had their defensive unit intact tonight, and they are being blown away.
I was going to say, they've really helped.
Go back and find those other folks.
14 seconds left in the first half. Next week, of course, at Candlestick Park in San Francisco, 2 teams going to the playoffs, but that is a key game and will illustrate just how key at halftime as Chicago takes on San Francisco, and that may be the battle for the home field advantage in the playoffs, which has proven to be very significant in the 1980s.
And a lot of people will tell you it's also the 2 best teams in the NFL right now. The 2 teams playing the best football.
Roby to kick off and through the end zone, or at least into it, and down there. And we've got some good news on Lance Mel. The injury to Mel, you'll notice, was to his left knee. The surgery to Mel was on the right knee. So we don't know the extent of tonight's injury. He was able, as Dan said, to put some weight on it, but the good news is it's not the same knee.
That's the good news with the bad news, and they're also saying sprain. And as Dan pointed out, he was putting weight on it when he left. He said something to Joe Walton, almost like it's going to be all right. Joe nodded his head and walked away from him. So hopefully that is the case. You never know until tomorrow, do you, Dan?
No, it'll depend on how much swelling, how much it locks up on him, but that's certainly encouraging news for Lance Mel.
O'Brien hits the tight end, Mickey Schuler, out to the 24-yard line. And that's going to do it for the first half. So last week, Buffalo destroys Miami 27-0. And tonight, at the end of the first half, it's Miami 27 and the Jets. Well, the Miami Dolphins, a thoroughly dominant first half, as was the case last year, on their way to a 45-3 win. They lead 27-0 at the half. And it's Reggie Roby to kick off because Gervais has the thigh bruise. And Roby's kick is a spinning kick, and that goes out of bounds. And the Jets have the option of taking the football now at the 35-yard line under the new rules. And they elect to do that. And as we start the second half, this ABC Sports exclusive is brought to you by Miller High Life. Miller made the American way since 1855. By Jeep. There's a feeling you can get only in a Jeep. And by Magnavox. Smart products for smart people. Magnavox, smart, very smart. From the 35-yard line, O'Brien starts with a pass, and he hits Al Toon, who was very silent in that first half. William Judson makes the catch. Toon has a pretty good thing going. You know, Largent has the streak everybody talks about. Steve's caught a pass in 149 straight games. Toon has caught 3 or more passes in 31 straight games. That's pretty remarkable.
That's the biggest streak currently going in the NFL with 3 or more. And, you know, 3 or more is a little better indication of how productive you're being during the course of a ball game.
It is. Second down and 1. And it's caught by Sohn for a first down. And just to put it into a little bit more perspective, in Largen's streak of 149, the longest period of time he has gone with 3 or more, 22 straight. There it is again, heavily weighted to the right of your screen.
Well, it was a 42-yard second quarter for the Jets. Remember, they only had 2 yards at the end of the first quarter, so, boy, they really poured the coals to it, didn't they?
On both sides, both offense and defense, it was all Miami.
From the 48-yard line. O'Brien, and it's caught by Schuler. He makes the catch at the 44-yard line.
That was linebacker Rick Graff, who started tonight for Bob Brzezinski. He's the rookie out of Wisconsin. Interesting to see what Bill Walton's philosophy will be. At the beginning of the game, he thought he could run the football. Thought he could run it. As we look at the 27-point, the halftime deficit, they're largest in 131 regular season games. But whether he'll stay with that philosophy, trying to run it, trying to power it up the middle, it looks as though he's going to try and hit underneath. The Dolphins, of course, thinking they might be going big.
2nd and 5. Looking for somebody who's open, and then throws, and wide open is Toon, and he gets inside the 10 for the touchdown.
And did you see him stiff arm Glenn Blackwood? Get out of my way.
That started off with O'Brien looking out to the left side to Kurt Stone. And O'Brien, who has shown in recent weeks that he can move around a little bit, moved out of the pocket. We'll see it here. He looks off to his left. That's where Kurt Stone is working. Looks for Toon. He's covered. Slips out of the pocket and maintains the cool, the composure, and watch Toon. What a stiff arm he lays on Glenn Blackwood.
Well, Al Toon came all the way across the field. He just worked all the way underneath the Miami zone. He ran a good 60, 70 yards by the time he caught the ball.
Pat Leahy kicks it through, and if the Jets are to get back in the game, that's exactly what they needed. Come out, go right down the field in a hurry. It took them 1 minute and 2 seconds to score.
There are burners at wide receivers. There are big, slow guys. And there are some guys that are both fast and physical. And that's exactly what Al Toon was on that play, fast and physical.
In his 3 years in the league, has had some huge days against Miami, but that's the first time he has scored a touchdown against the Dolphins. And tonight, he was shut out in the first half, catches 2 on that drive, and the Jets try to scramble back, now down 27-7, and the wind has blown the ball off the tee for Leahy. Swirling wind here at Joe Robbie Stadium, where it's, all things considered, a pretty cool evening. Temperature today in the Miami area got up into the low 70s, and right now it's probably in the high 60s.
Good night for football, but it is gusty. Tough for the kickers tonight.
Oh, the heck with those guys. Let them kick it. That's all they got to do.
To the 1, taken there by Lorenzo Hampton. Moves back out to the 19.
You asked Gervais about that. He's walking around with a big ice bag on his right side. He got in there with the big boys and got hammered.
You know, you hear about injuries where they say he's on a game-to-game basis or a baseball player day-to-day. They tell us Gervais is on a kick-to-kick basis.
And he missed the first one.
I know guys that played their entire career on a game-to-game basis. These guys had stock in Johnson & Johnson. I think they had so much tape on.
First and 10, Dolphins from their own 19-yard line. And Marino gives it to Stradford. Stradford stops at the 20. Crable makes the tackle. Stradford with a big first half as Crable stops him for no game. Stradford, it's an interesting story because when you look back to last year, it looked like Lorenzo Hampton was emerging and he was going to be their big back and take over in the old Tony Nathan role, and all of a sudden he's on the bench, and here comes Stradford.
I don't think they have any idea what they had in Stradford out of Boston College, 4th-round draft pick. He can do it all. Leading receiver, leading rusher.
But I don't think he's the guy that can do it for you on a 16-game schedule, carrying the ball 25 times a game.
Davenport makes the catch, seeks the first down, and gets knocked down short of it at about the 28 by Rich Miano, and that'll make it 3rd down and 1.
And on that play, you saw Stratford, they had him flanked out to the right, using as the wide receiver.
One of us has to be shameless enough to bring this topic up, so I figure I'll be the first to do it. You know, I wonder if that missed extra point's going to come into play.
Oh, man.
We don't have to discuss it with you, though.
Who is that guy? 3rd and 1 from the 28-yard line. Stradford out to the 31 for a first down.
Waiting for the end of the Seahawks story.
Yeah, hey, what happened? That seagull last week, when we last left the Kingdome on Monday, the seagull was flying around. We got a report from Seattle as of Thursday. They had opened up all events, but he had remained indoors and was living in, as one official put it, seagull heaven, picking up the scraps from last Monday.
He gained 3 pounds, and I mean, stop to think about the pickings that would be in the Kingdome after a ball game, and boy, have we run out of things to talk about.
From the 31, Stradford lunges forward out to the 36-yard line.
They had one more quarter there. That seagull would have had its own sitcom.
So we're going to try to check with the Audubon Society and find out about that seagull.
Dan thought it was mechanical anyway.
I did initially. Right now, the Dolphins are doing what they have to do. The Jets trying to get back into this ball game with a good first drive here in the second half, and now when Miami could have aided the Jets' cause by running 3 plays and having to punt the football away, are now putting together a pretty good drive of their own. Trying to take a little bit of the starch out of the Jets, and
Davenport takes the ball out to the 39-yard line. It will be 3rd down and 2, and that's MacArthur in on the stop. MacArthur in there, and with Lance Mel out, it's a medial ligament sprain is what they are telling us. And the report is it's a 4 to 6 week type of injury, but not requiring surgery. That is the report from the Jets locker room. 3rd and 2 from the 39. And it's caught for a first down out at the 45-yard line by Mark Clayton.
And again, that time, as so often happens with the Miami Dolphins, it starts up front. Dan Marino, even in the face of a jet blitz, had the time to pick out Mark Clayton, who, with the good hands, the explosive first step, what a talented football player he is. Dynamite.
Yeah, Dan, the frustration for Don Shula watching this team perform tonight. This looks like the Miami Dolphins. What were they last Sunday? Blown away 27-0 by Buffalo.
1st and 10 from the 45-yard line. And Marino throws, and there's Clayton again, and he's out of bounds at the 35. Another first down. Carl Howard bumping him out.
And talk about being open. I mean, it's a play-action fake in the backfield, and granted, that freezes the linebackers, but it doesn't account for a receiver being this wide open. Look at Carl Howard. He made the mistake of a cornerback turning his back to the line of scrimmage. He just ran completely out of the picture.
Good move by Clayton. He got on the outside where Carl Howard was looking back into the backfield. Howard never even saw him break out. He was 7 yards beyond him, and Marino right on target again with tremendous time to throw the football.
At the 35, Jets come across.
And I think that's Joe Klecko moving. Can you hear Marino yell all the way up here?
Yes. Good acoustics in this
Encroachment on the defense, number 73. 5-yard penalty.
How loud do you think it sounds to the guy who's only 18 inches away, Joe Klecko?
That's the hat trick for Klecko. Let's watch again. Klecko, of course, this is sort of characteristic of him. He likes to go with that ball, and 3 times he's moved on it tonight. Trying to split that gap. And he makes a difference in this football team. He's such a spirited player. Makes a very definite difference for Mark Gastineau, even though it's not been reflected tonight.
Let's listen to Dan Marino here.
On 1st and 5 from the 30-yard line. Caught by Davenport, and he takes it to the 19-yard line. So Miami, and Dan talking about the importance of this drive following the Jets' initial burst at the outset of the second half. Miami coming back and moving and taking time off the clock. 9:20 to play in the 3rd.
Like the drive in the first quarter. A little on the ground. Pick it out here. Look for Clayton, check it off, hit Davenport out of the backfield.
Marino now over 200 yards. He is 17 of 23 for 201 yards. Stradford takes it to the 15. 21 carries for Stradford. That's unusual in itself. Dolphins have been going to the air. Of course, when you've got a Marino, you normally go to the air and try to find that ace running back for a couple of seasons, and it's the most carries by a Dolphin running back in 2 seasons.
Dan is right, too. He's kind of small for that. He's 5'9", 190-pounder, and you start getting over 20 carries at that size, it's a little risky. Of course, 20-plus carries a ball game isn't exactly the norm for a Dolphin running back, but the point is he's just not sturdy enough to take it.
2nd and 6. And Marino finding a secondary receiver, Woody Bennett. When you throw to Bennett, you're actually going to about your 4th choice.
Well, and I think that's indicative of the Jets and their pass rush. That's how much time Marino has. The Dolphin offensive line and the backs who are stepping up to pick up on the blitz are doing a fabulous job. No Jets are even close.
That's Carter in there first, and then he just gets barreled over. Coming in there to finish him off was MacArthur.
Woody is the ultimate safety valve. It's only his 4th catch of the year. He is the real emergency exit. 3rd and 4. Caught by Pruitt, and he's inbounds and then goes out of bounds at the 11-yard line. What they are ruling is that his forward progress was stopped at the 11. He stayed in bounds, even though he was out of bounds. The official was there to signal that the clock should keep on rolling, and it's Russell Carter who is shaken up for the Jets. And that stops the clock, not going out of bounds.
Takes the receiver at the ball, but he did step out of bounds.
Well, Frederick is going counter to what the official on the sideline said.
You're right, Al, because he was winding his arm to keep the clock moving. Now let's take a look at it. Did Pruitt go out of bounds to begin with?
Not there. Yeah,
right there he did. Okay.
Yep. Almost out of the county.
But the head linesman right there, I believe that's Burl Toller again, kept the sweeping motion going with his right arm. Russell Carter, who came up to make that play, and you could see him flex his leg a little bit. He's still on the ground.
He got really twisted up when he took that fall to the outside, and they're still looking at Russell Carter.
4th and 1 when we come back.
Russell Carter, and they are assisting him off the field. As though he hyperextended his right leg. Let's take a look at it again, and there's a little confusion on the part of the officials here. This is the pass to Pruitt. Now, watch the right leg as he swings around. This is Carter, plants it, and then Pruitt gets right into it.
4th and 1.
Carter releases. Meanwhile, there was an indication to keep the clock moving, as though the officials had thought the progress had been stopped. This is Carter, and Carter can
looking like he's not going to make it the rest of the way.
Now they're loading the arm. He might have dislocated a finger on it also. We'll get another report on Russell Carter, but meanwhile the Jets are just flat running out of defensive backs.
And there is the time is called because he's off the field, but he's in a dangerous spot. He's just outside the end zone. And so they have to hold up play. There he is. That's a better shot for you, the perspective as to where he is and why they're holding play up. But the officials that time were confused as Burl Toller gave the signal to keep winding the clock, even though he had stepped out of bounds at the 11-yard line.
How much does Russell Carter's wrist or hand hurt? I mean, just stop and think about it. The reason he stopped there, he can't continue to walk. Just the jarring motion of walking is obviously putting him in a great deal of pain. As they're going to get the card and usher him in. Why don't we take a look at that play, Al, and kind of explain to the folks out there exactly what happened and why we were a little confused in making the call. Here's Pruitt. who's already caught the pass from Dan Marino. Now, we've looked at this already, and we're going to see as he plants his right foot right here, his left foot cross over and step out of bounds. All right, you see two officials. Number 37, the head linesman. Now watch him. He doesn't make any motion at all here. If we can continue the tape running. Now he's in between. He's not sure what to do. Now one official calls that the play is over. Now watch him wind his right arm, saying keep the clock moving. Now what that means, Al, is exactly what you explained, the forward progress rule.
He had stepped out of bounds, but Toller, by winding his arm, would indicate there that his forward progress had been stopped, and that would be the end of the play. I think what he meant to signal he was out of bounds. It was just an inadvertent signal.
Yeah.
Is what it amounted to. And that's why it's 4th down and 1 now at the 10-yard line.
The important part there is that Russell Carter is hurt, and we'll give you an update as soon as they send something up to us.
And they go for it on 4th and 1 at the 10. And it's Lorenzo Hampton who dives to the 9-yard line, and he should have it. They needed more like a half yard than a full, with 7:07 to play in the third period. And it's a first down.
Well, get more on Russell Carter, but I mean, it looked as though he had twisted his leg, and then he held his hand, and then as they were taking him off, they were holding his arm up as though they were protecting the shoulder.
We're providing the staff and equipment for the
Now they're saying he does have a bruised left shoulder. You talked about the pain, Dan. As you well know, there can be nothing more painful than that.
So the Jets really beat up in the secondary. Humphrey is in there to spell Carter. First and goal at the 9. Stradford takes it down to the 6-yard line. It'll be 2nd and goal with 6 minutes and 20 seconds remaining in the third quarter. The Dolphins with a long, impressive drive and taking a lot of time off the clock. Remember, it took the Jets just over a minute to score coming out of the block here in the second half.
Really an uncharacteristic Miami drive. They're more big play oriented, the passing attack. By having the 27-7 lead, they're able to keep the ball on the ground a lot more, grind it out. Very effective drive in protecting the lead. And they're on the verge of adding to one.
2nd and goal. Jets almost jumped. No flag. Pass is caught at the 4 by Davenport, and he is pushed back. And it will be 3rd down and goal.
This looks more like the 49ers offensively than the Dolphins with the little short dump-offs to the back circling out of the backfield. This is Bill Walsh football.
Yeah.
Not so much Don Shula football.
And Roger Craig's turning into a Ron Davenport.
Yeah, Davenport tonight has caught 6. He caught only 9 all season coming in. 3rd down and goal. Miami leading by 20. Flecko nearly jumped again. And it's rifled and picked off at the 1-yard line. Picked off by Kyle Clifton. And there's a marker down back at the 4. I mentioned that Klecko almost jumped. The flag is down at the line of scrimmage.
Klecko almost went onto his head. He rolled forward out of his stance, and I think this is going to go against the Jets.
Encroachment on number 73 of the defense.
That is a killer for the Jets. I mean, a real killer.
You could see it. Dan Marino barked out the first cut. They were going on 2, and Joe Klecko went on 1. This is Joe Klecko right here. Watch him roll forward. He almost stands on his head, trying to stop his momentum. Oh, that hurts. That really hurts. Clifton with the interception, and typical of their night.
Makes it 3rd down and goal at the 2. And on the inside handoff, it's Jim Jensen taking it to the 1-yard line. The versatile one. Special teams, he can quarterback, he can play wide receiver, he can block for you, he can do a lot of things.
And Revage is going to come out, the man who's been on a kick-by-kick basis. And I guess on this basis, it's short enough, we're going to let Revage with the wounded thigh try to put the field goal up.
Well, I think it's even less than an extra point, isn't it?
Yep, it is. They'll spot it at the 9. Dolphins have had the football for almost 10 minutes. Strock to spot it down. They let the 30-second clock run down to 2, and he boots it through. And so the Dolphins take most of the period off the clock, add 3, and lead by 23. In the AFC East, Miami trying to stay alive, but they really got a tough road ahead of them. Even if they win tonight, they're still in trouble back of Indianapolis by a game, but really 2 games behind in essence.
But the way they've come back, the Jets with a great opportunity. With a win tonight, they could have moved into a tie with Indianapolis, and they're getting blown out of here.
Well, what did we say at the start of the game tonight? No one had the same record. I mean, if this goes on the books, now 3 of them are going to have the same record. 3 teams at 6-6, 1 7-5, and 1 5-7.
And when I say they'd be in essence a game back of Indy, as the short kick by Roby is taken by Griggs, and he brings it back to the 50-yard line. In a tie-breaking situation, the way it would appear right now, Miami would not beat anybody if they get into that type of situation. And there is the comparison on O'Brien and Marino. So what it amounts to is that Miami would almost have to win the division outright to advance to the playoffs.
And that 20 of 26 by Dan Marino, on a percentage basis, not a lot of yards, but superlative percentage ratio there.
From the 50 on first down, Schuler takes the ball down to the 36-yard line.
And we've heard very little from Schuler tonight, as the Dolphins have been very successful over the years in shutting Schuler down. Pro Bowl tight end, but the Dolphins have concentrated on Schuler, and they have been very effective against him.
3.5 minutes to play, third quarter, 30-7 Miami. O'Brien underneath goes to Freeman McNeil inside the 20, and he's out of bounds at the 15-yard line.
Freeman McNeil, and again, he is also, we've heard very little of Freeman McNeil, and he grabs what appears to be a hamstring, the back of his leg. Freeman McNeil is going to leave the field, and this has been a fife and drum night for the Jets. They have lost some key players. Again, O'Brien had to check off, dumps it off to McNeil. McNeil looks for running room there, breaks it out to the outside, and it did appear as if he might have pulled a hamstring. Dives for the extra yardage and then limps off the field. There he is, the Travelers Man of the Year for the Jets. And of course, the Travelers Man of the Year in the NFL will be announced at the Super Bowl, and that award, of course, in recognition for not just play on the football field, but for various other community services. And Freeman McNeil is very involved around the New York area. He loves to work with kids. A bit of a kid himself. Freeman McNeil now moving off the field. Been a tough night on the Jets, not only in terms of being blown out of here early, but also in terms of the injuries. Bell going out. They've lost another cornerback in Russell Carter. Now McNeil is limped off the field.
And it's Hector in the backfield on 1st and 10 from the 16-yard line. Hector takes it down to the 9-yard line, following Joe Fields on the play. The Jets may have outgained the Dolphins here in the third quarter, but the key thing is Miami had the ball for 9.5 minutes on that one drive.
And when you have the lead and then put together that type of a time-consuming drive, that's what coaches will tell you on Monday when you sit in the film room. He'll say, guys, great first half, but this is what I like more than anything else. That's what Don Shula will like more than anything else, that drive that protected a big lead.
On 2nd and 3, O'Brien incomplete. Hector was the receiver in the area. 3rd down.
And as they work on that right hamstring of Freeman McNeil's, that's true, Dan, but the other thing, the other coach will say, look, we had a chance to get back in this football game. We came out there, we went boom, 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 in 1 minute and 8 seconds, we had a touchdown. Now, what kind of a football team are we? And then we go out and let them take that sustained drive and run all that time off.
You're right. The good sign there as they work on Freeman McNeil is by rubbing his hamstring like that, more or less it's a cramp rather than an injury, so we're liable to see him back in the ballgame before long.
3rd and 3 from the 9. O'Brien is pressured and incomplete. Toon can't one-hand it. Charge was on, and that time it was Paul Lankford who intercepted a pass in the first quarter, coming in on the corner blitz to force the issue.
Al Toon. It's a pretty simple game when that's all the more you have to do. He almost got it in. How many times have you seen this guy make that one-handed catch? I don't know that there's a receiver in the league that's more adept at making the one-handed catch than Toon. But that one from O'Brien, asking a bit much.
Well, what Walton is doing here, he knows somewhere along the line he needs a field goal. He's down by 23, so he's going to need 3 touchdowns and a field goal, and he opts here on 4th down, but no, they take it, and it's Ryan taking the ball in. Touchdown.
Makes sense, too. You have the option with the quarterback as the holder, and good call.
Well, if you're
not so sure that surprised Don Shula. He's going to be a little upset about it.
Well, I don't know
if they warned him about it.
I don't know if it surprised Don Shula, Frank, but it sure surprised the 11 men that he had on the field, and he is furious. He can't believe that. The entire side of the Dolphin defense just went to sleep. Look at the right side of your screen. Now they go away from the rush. Give the Jets credit for that.
You know, they played it pretty well. I'm sure they had been told about it before they went out there. When you're leading a team by that many points, you're going to tell them to watch for anything. And he was really upset.
In 114 games in his career, that's Ryan's first NFL touchdown. Goes into the books as an 8-yard run.
And it's a 24-13 game, 14 game, if the Dolphins don't put together that big drive last time they had the ball.
Pat Ryan played through the strike, and in fact, he quarterbacked the Jets to a replacement victory over Miami earlier this season. Pat Ryan, by the way, was the maiden name of Pat Nixon. So I throw a little trivia for you.
Thank you, Al.
You're welcome. Down on the 3-yard line, it's Lorenzo Hampton. And he is taken down out at the 23-yard line by Bobby Humphrey, and we've got a flag down. .2:19 to play in the 3rd quarter. Jets trying to make it a game. It's 30-14. Miami.
Offensive holding on the kick return team, number 53. There'll be a 10-yard penalty and 1st down and 10.
There is a quiz ahead. Which head coach defeated Don Shula the most times in regular season games? And the way that's worded would indicate it's a retired coach, huh?
Second winningest coach of all time, Don Shula. Only had that one losing season. He didn't lose to many of them very often.
25 years. He's only lost 100 games. That's 4 a year. Marino throws, and it is caught at the 29-yard line. No, the line judge comes over and says no. Mark Clayton didn't make the play.
Marino also thought he had it. They're saying he trapped it, and it'll be incomplete. Again, look at all the time in the world. There is no pressure on Marino, and you just cannot let Marino stand back there and look around, find the secondary receiver, as he's done all night long, and very close to the reception. The crowd, they're seeing it in diamond vision either end of the stadium, and they think it's a reception.
Well, they ought to moan. It did look like a catch, didn't it?
Certainly did.
I mean, from that angle, it certainly looked like he had his hands between the ball and the ground.
2nd and 10 from the 14, and Marino throws a dangerous pass, but it's caught by Davenport. He's stopped by Hamilton out at the 16-yard line.
You know, we were talking about Don Shula and only having lost 100 games during his 25 years. You wonder how he was able to win consistently. He's never had much in the way of production at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
What? Johnny Unitas, Earl Morrall, Bob Greasy, Dan Marino. Life is really tough, Don. I mean, this guy's had the opportunity to work with a lot of Hall of Famers.
Sneak David Woodley in there for a while, too.
David Woodley. Yeah, he only took him to a Super Bowl.
To a Super Bowl, sure.
Got him into 6 Super Bowls.
3rd and 8, and Marino fires incomplete. And the Jets are going to get the ball back, intended for Mark Clayton. So do you know the answer to that question, Dan? The coach to defeat Shula the most times in regular season play?
Well, we're going to forget the question if we don't get the answer rather soon. How many guesses do I get?
I don't know.
That's Don Strock on the right of Don Shula there. He works with Don Shula, signals the plays into Marino. Lou Holtz.
Well, you'll get dinner for two at Longie's in Lahaina if you've got the right answer.
If you're wrong, you get 3 dinners.
Roby's kick is dropped by Townsell at the 40-yard line. He gets it back, though, to retain possession.
Let's see if Reggie goes to the wrist and checks the hang time. The game has really changed when you wear a wrist watch. It's JoJo making it tough on himself. A thankless job returning punts. I don't know why anybody in their right mind would do it, because that's about as good as it gets. David Fry hustling down there to pound on Townsell.
So the Jets now in the waning moments of the third period from the 40-yard line, and O'Brien off the play fake, stepping up and throwing, and a great catch by Toon down to the 34-yard line. And the Jets very much in the game, down by 16, and coming off is Rick Grab, and he is really shaken up.
That's the rookie from Wisconsin who started tonight for Brodzinski. And let's take a look at Toon again, working against Langford, number 44. Langford shadowing him all the way. Blitz was on. And with that great height, O'Brien was able to hang it up high, and Toon could come down with it.
From the 33-yard line, O'Brien hits Toon again. And Toon, who was blanked in the first half, having a big third period, and out of bounds, and has a first down at about the 23-yard line with 26 seconds remaining in the third period. The answer: which head coach defeated Shula the most times in regular season games?
Walt Michaels.
Yeah.
They had a string at one time out. No one could figure it out. They had a string of victories over the Dolphins, and the Dolphins were right at their height. I would have guessed from now until tomorrow afternoon and never come up with the name of Walt Michaels.
Me too. Hector down to the 18-yard line. And so the Jets are knocking on the door on what might be the final play of the third quarter.
If the Jets get in the end zone, make it a 30-21 ball game, there's going to be nobody leaving Joe Robbie Stadium early.
O'Brien's going to try to get the play off before the period ends, and he does. And going through the middle is Roger Vick down to the 14, and that's the end of the quarter, and it will be 3rd down and 1 when the fourth period begins. Jets coming back into it, and we'll be back to Miami after this word about an upcoming show on ABC, and this word from your local station. So we start the fourth quarter at Joe Robbie Stadium. Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, and Dan Dierdorf.
As I was saying earlier, what about that next extra point? I'm telling you right now, if the Jets score and make it 30-21, and then something bizarre happens, I'm going to want a replay of 1 minute into the second half where I brought up the point about the missed extra point. And would it come into play? And you would see your two colleagues blushing rather profusely.
3rd down and 2 at the 14-yard line. Hector, first down, and in, touchdown.
We've got a different football game and a different Jets football team and a very upset Don Shula. Well, this time it's nothing overly fancy. Al Toon gets it started here in motion. Watch him come sit up on the line of scrimmage, come in for a seal. Seal blocks here, nothing, gets to the corner. Jim Sweeney, the left tackle. Let's see if he gets out into the play. See him on the pull. There's the kick out. Puts William Judson right on the ground and into the end zone. Johnny Hector, and can you believe this? 30-21.
Leahy kicks it through. 7 seconds into the fourth quarter. And if your next door neighbor went to sleep at the half, you may want to give him a call.
Look at Jim Sweeney out front.
He makes the one that brings Hector into the end zone. Jets are right back in it.
To our digs at Joe Robbie Stadium, Deerdorf looks like he's running Crazy Eddie's Discount Center over here. What's for sale down there?
Telestrator, monitor. I told you before, 7 monitors, 6 eyeballs. We're overstaffed here.
Totally on top of every little move that takes place on the field.
The kick is knocked down and then run back gingerly by the tight end Bruce Hardy to the 25-yard line.
Big series right now for the Dolphins and Don Shula. He was really chewing on some folks down on the sidelines. He was really upset when the Jets took that down and scored.
Well, look what the Jets
totally in hand, and now it's all turning around.
Yeah, look at the yardage. Remember that the Jets only had 2 yards at the end of the first quarter. They had 44 at halftime, and look what they've done here, 204 yards. Quite a third quarter for New York, both in yardage and on the scoreboard.
They need to go out there right now, the Dolphins do, and put some points on the board. Certainly move the football and say, hey, let's get your attention once again. You can't pay attention to that time of possession.
And the Dolphins need to start taking some time off the clock. Flag is thrown. Stradford taken down by MacArthur out at the 29-yard line.
Boy, that flag goes in the middle like that. It is usually offensive holding.
Well, it's either face mask or holding. It's one of the two, and just about the only thing the umpire gets involved with, and that time, as Frank called it, holding on.
Offensive holding, number 76, push down, will be replayed.
Tom Toth.
You know, down yourself, when you're an offensive lineman, when you start holding, there's a reason you're holding. When you're getting beat by somebody, it's getting a little tougher.
Well, more often than not, you're right. It's someone, because of their athletic abilities, is putting you in a compromising position where the only way you can attempt to control him is by using your hands.
1st and 20 from the 15. Davenport gets a block. Brings out to the 28-yard line.
Good call. You come at the screen every now and then. The Dolphins don't use it that much because Marino can get rid of the football so quickly and doesn't get sacked that often. But you do it every now and then. Just keep that defensive line honest. Just suck them in a little bit, bring them in, and Marino does it very well, dropping back, and then just bloop it right over their heads, pick up a couple of blocks, and it was good yardage gained on that one.
And Davenport, remember, is the guy who had 9 catches all season. That's his 8th catch of the game. 2nd down and 7 from the 28. Marino throws a bullet, and that one is caught out at the 33 by Tony Nathan, the venerable one who was cut and then brought back.
Can either one of you ever remember a Dan Marino game where he threw so many short passes? I mean, his percentage of completion is outstanding, but he is really working the short game tonight more than I've ever seen him do it. That's a tough ball to handle.
Good catch by Nathan.
Yeah, that's no routine catch for Tony Nathan.
3rd down and 2 at the 34 from the shotgun. And that's caught by Duper for a 1st down out at the 44-yard line. And this is exactly what Miami's trying to do. Keep the ball, take time off the clock, and we're down to 12:40 to play.
And that decimated secondary of the Jets right now has a replacement player, Sean Dykes, who was activated this week in there, and it didn't take Marino long to find him. And here is Duper, and you imagine where Dykes' heart is at the moment when you got an all-pro receiver coming out there to work on you, and it was just so calculated. Marino making sure, almost catching that ball for Duper for the 1st down.
And Dan mentioning before, Marino going to the short game. Davenport has caught 8 tonight. That's Duper's 1st catch. That illustrates it best of all. Now Marino going deep for Clayton. Incomplete. Crowd wants a flag. They don't get it. Back judge right there. They kept the flag in his pocket. Pete List.
Bobby Humphrey saying, I'm number 1, but he also was beaten rather well, too.
He was, and it did look, I know why the crowd was groaning. It looked like he pawed at Mark Clayton right there, but if you'll notice, he didn't touch him. He did not touch him, and that is a good play by Bobby Humphrey, even though defensively, as you pointed out, Frank, he wasn't in very good position. But there was no contact.
So much for the short passing game theory.
Well, regardless of whether they would have completed it or not, he has thrown more short ones than I've seen in quite a while.
Second and 10. And he hits Duper at the 40-yard line. So Duper gets shut out until a minute or so ago, and now catches two. Duper is the chant, and at the 40-yard line, a first down.
Look at that. I mean, that was just great work between the two of them. Duper went down, hooked up, saw that he was covered on the inside, and just spun around behind the defender. Here he is now working on the outside, working against Carl Howard. Takes it upfield. Now look, he knows he's covered right there, slides back. Marino is right with him.
You know, it's a great illustration there of the status of the Jets secondary. These guys aren't even playing the ball or the receiver. I mean, they've got their back to the line of scrimmage. Frank, it's been a long time since I've seen DBs turned around like that.
Stradford spins his way for a gain of 3 to the 36.
Well, they have backups for backups in there right now. And I mentioned Sean Dykes is in there, number 22, and Sean Dykes made the team as a replacement player and was cut when the regulars came back, and they just brought him back this past week because of all the injuries they've had.
And
that's very interesting. Yeah.
You have to go back to the old AFL All-Star game to find a...
Can't blame it all on Bud Carson, but yeah, it's been lean picking. That is a remarkable stat.
Second and 7. 10:40 to play in the fourth quarter. And Stradford threads his way down to the 28-yard line for a first down.
This is what they had to do. Once the Jets came back to life, started to take over control of this football game. Now, you could see them on the sideline. Shula talking to them, and those cold eyes glaring at them, and they went back out there, this offensive unit, and they have moved the football, and they've moved it well. Cold eyes? So he can fix them on you if he wants to. I always found it to be a rather heated gaze from Todd Shula. Cold and icy.
First down to the 28.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, that
Clayton.
There aren't many people that could throw it like that. And time it out so absolutely perfect with Clayton. He had Carl Howard spinning around down there. He had released the ball just as Clayton came out of his break and had it on just like a clothesline.
This is really a simple route by Clayton. Just works down, works the sideline. Watch Howard go out of the picture. But when Dan comes out, watch him throw this football. Just concentrate on the arc of the football because there's not going to be much of what.
Watch where he throws it now. The break right there, he releases it, and no way Howard could get back into it. That's beautiful.
That ball did not arch on its way to Clayton. That was a rope.
Here's Stradford inside the 10 to the 9, and Stradford tonight has now rushed for 110 yards. It's the third time this season that Stradford has gone over 100 yards, and the Dolphins haven't had a running back do that in 1 year since Andrew Franklin in 1982.
Andrew Franklin. I would have said that.
Yeah.
I remember Andrew Franklin.
Sure.
That is the truth. They have been hard pressed for running backs until they found this youngster.
Second and 5 from the 8. Marino over the middle and complete down to the 5-yard line as Davenport makes another catch. So he has equaled his season total tonight in one game with 9 catches.
I'm trying to remember the last time that Dan Marino got knocked down. Boy, is his line protecting him up front. Here's a good look at Mark Gastineau working against Tom Toth, the right guard. Ronnie Lee falls off to pick up the blitzing Alex Gordon from the outside. And Dwight Stephenson with his left arm spins Gerald Nichols all the way around. That one could have drawn a flag, but didn't. Nonetheless, Marino, when he's protected, he's lethal.
On third down and 2, Marino on the bootleg touchdown.
Great call.
The entire Jet defense went after Troy Stradford, and Marino kept the football.
And what a time to use that with your field goal kicker on the sidelines, hurt. You don't know whether he can get it through there or not. You take a very risky situation, and everybody bought The fake to Stradford. This is Gerald Nichols. He's unblocked. He gets sucked to the inside. Watches Dan Marino go to the outside. One man is always responsible for the contain. It's Gerald Nichols. He threw on the brakes, but way too late. What a great drive. What a timely drive for the Dolphins.
That's Marino's first touchdown of the season. Gervais kicks it through. They take a lot of time off the clock. 8:13 to play in the fourth, and Miami is back up by 16. Dan Marino inching his way along, rushing-wise, through his career. Takes it in for the score here, though.
He threw some impressive shots on that drive. And a great call, the bootleg. David Sula, perhaps, and in all probability.
Those numbers are all askew now after that last rush, huh? He's up to about a half a yard. Cleaver takes the ball back to the 34-yard line. And the Jets will start from there. So the Jets trying to mount a comeback here in the second half, but Miami with two long and fruitful drives has taken a lot of time off the clock, and the Jets are back down by 16.
Still a lot of time if they can move the football, but this has, that kind of a drive by Miami has a very strange way of sparking itself through the entire team, and particularly as a carryover effect onto the defense.
O'Brien throws and finds the open man, and that's Johnny Hector, and Hector fights his way for a first down, but there's a marker out at the 35-yard line. And it goes against Miami. Jets have only had the ball 4 minutes here in the second half, but they've scored 3 touchdowns.
Defensive holding, number 51. Penalty will be refused. They will take the result of the play. It will be a first down.
Mark Brown holding, but they take the play because it picks up 11 out to the 46-yard line.
Well, we're going to have a conference here, Al, because there's some confusion among the officials. They huddled for a moment, and now they're moving the ball even farther.
Well, the Jets have broken the huddle only to find that the ball is still being moved around.
Now it's moved back.
Where'd the play end is the question. Did the play end at the 49 of Miami? I don't think so. If they didn't take the penalties where the play ended, and they say it was at the 49 of the Dolphins. And O'Brien throws, and that's caught at the 40-yard line by Al Toon.
Toon having a big night, and he's doing it again. As we mentioned earlier, that Wesley Walker out with the injured shoulder. And Wesley Walker, a healthy one, is such a plus to Al Toon with that great speed clearing things out, because Al Toon is basically a man who works underneath, a big, strong possession-type receiver.
He's caught 5 for 100 yards all in this half. And O'Brien has it knocked away.
That's a fumble. Yes.
And it's loose, and it's Mark Brown who is there. Miami has the ball.
And John Boza comes up with the ball.
On it, fumble caused by Mark Brown.
Mark Brown just blitzed from the outside, and boy, did he make a nice spinning move back to the inside to get the hit on O'Brien. And credit the secondary and the Dolphins. They had held up the receivers. They were in good position. O'Brien couldn't go left. Now he changes off, looks to the right, and there's the action. Number 51, right in the back. He was just bringing the ball back to release it. You just can't hold it that long, and here comes Boza, who is playing his best football game, perhaps, of the season, the number 1 draft pick out of Boston College. Again, there's Mark Brown to the left.
After a review by instant replay, the play was stand as it was called. 1st and 10, Miami. Recovered fumble.
Well, the replay officials took an obligatory look at it to try to figure out if it was a forward pass, but needless to say, that was pretty easy to determine, and a fumble all the way. Dolphins ball. Good hustle, good technique that time by Mark Brown to make the play.
First and 10. Stradford, he fumbles, he coughs it up, and it's Humphrey running it all the way in for the touchdown.
Do you believe this?
Bobby Humphrey plucking it out of the air, and the Jets still very much in it. And this crowd is stunned and silent.
Take a look again. The handoff. They were just working on the clock, and Stratford sprinting to the outside, has the ball very loose. In comes the hand. Alex Gordon getting it in there, right into the hands of the very fast Bobby Humphrey. No one was going to be close to him. Well, well, well. Who'd have believed this? Missed extra point. The missed extra point. We've got a player down on the field right in front of the Dolphin bench at the 35-yard line. One of the Miami players. It's Dwight Stephenson, I believe, the center, number 57. I can make out the 5, and I think I can see a 7 in there as well. And the all-world center of the Dolphins is still down on the field. Best center that I ever saw. This guy is, if he continues his career for another 5 or 6 years, this guy is going to be a mandatory first ballot Hall of Fame football player. So too, Danny. He's not all that big, too. He sits in there, what, at about 250 and about 6'2", and yet does it as good as anyone perhaps has ever done it. And the backup center, Jeff Dellenbach, working on his shotgun snaps on the sideline with Dan Marino. Ooh, a little wobbly there.
So they work on Stephenson. The clock shows 7:01 to play in the fourth quarter. And the Jets, with the extra point, would be within 9.
Alex Gordon is the man who made this happen. Watch him fight off the block, and he's going to get his left hand in right there. Gets it on the football, and Stratford didn't have it clutched tightly to his side, and it really didn't take much force on the part of Gordon to knock it loose. And Bobby Humphrey showing that a lot of times in this game, if you're just on your feet, if you got both eyes open and you're willing to make a little something happen, a lot of things will come your way. The old cliche, if you're around the football, things will happen, and it does. You hear it all the time. He's always around the ball. This is a staggering blow to the Dolphins if this is any type of a serious injury to Dwight Stephenson, and it looks like they're calling for the cart. You can see, Al, that looks like they've got the pad pulled away from his. Is that his left knee they have exposed? It's really tough to tell. We'd really be remiss to try to speculate anything here. They do have the pants leg pulled back on his left leg.
So Stephenson in his 8th year, and a man who is no stranger to the Pro Bowl. And basically the Dolphins feeling that Stephenson has had better years to this point than this season, but again, he's being judged against his own very, very high standards, and this would be a very, very costly blow to Miami, obviously.
Well, he was hurt in preseason. He wore a cast right up until the first game, a couple of days before the opening game of the season, and he did not play too well in the first 2 games. And of course, the strike took them out. They're looking at the left knee. They're holding the left knee very rigid as they would take Dwight Stephenson off. I'm sorry, maybe this is trivial, but is there not a more humane way to remove a football player from the field than on the back of a tractor that's not big enough for a guy to lay down? I mean, maybe I'm being nitpicky here, but I mean, that's atrocious. Wasn't until just a few years ago they even had these.
So we'll get the report on Stephenson and pass it along as soon as we get it. Meanwhile, Leahy to attempt the extra point with Ryan holding, and the Jets climb to within 9. And we have 7:01 remaining in the fourth quarter as Humphrey runs it in from 46, and it's 37-28 Dolphins. A real bizarre game because the Dolphins thoroughly dominated the first half, led 27-0. It was no contest. But the Jets have climbed back into it. And after it looked like they were left for dead, Troy Stradford coughs it up. Bobby Humphrey runs it in. It's a 9-point game with a lot of time left. As Leahy kicks off and is fielded at the 11-yard line by Scott Schwady. And the rookie brings it back out to the 30-yard line. Meanwhile, Tampa Bay's Mike Shula, who backs up DeBerg and Testaverde with the Buccaneers on his off night, just flies across the state to be with Dad.
And Mom, Dottie, sitting in the end zone with her little group. She never misses a game. Of course, David, Mike's brother, offensive assistant head coach. Don Shula, they have a family affair down here.
I think you ought to point out, Frank, that Dottie Shula's in a luxury box in the end zone before anybody thinks she can't get better tickets than that.
I know. I talked to her earlier. She likes her old box in the Orange Bowl.
1st and 10. Miami at the 29-yard line.
Good, strong lady.
This is Stratford, who takes it out to the 31. It's public knowledge. Dorothy is battling cancer. We mentioned it because it's been talked about here. It's been in the papers, and we want to wish her and her struggle the very, very best. A lovely lady and a wonderful family.
And she is doing very well, too. She has that family around her, and that's her life.
And a very touching banquet testimonial for her a couple of weeks ago.
Well said, gentlemen. You know what happens in a situation like this? Every one of those Jets is going to be thinking fumble. Whoever gets there first, you get the tackle. Let's get a hand in there and try and draw that ball loose. They know they can do it.
2nd down and 8 from the 31-yard line as Marino throws to Stratford. And he takes it out to the 38-yard line. They are just short of the first down. It'll be 3rd down and 1. Howard and Clifton in on the tackle. Pretty big play coming up here as the Dolphins need this first down to keep that clock moving.
And the man who's sending it in, Don Shula, sends in Pruitt with the call. That was a great catch by Stratford, by the way. Marino being harassed in there, almost sacked, and he really put some smoke on it. And Stratford didn't even bobble it, and it was a big play to get them close to first down yardage.
I think the ball fused to Stratford's hand.
Oh, he had to catch it out of self-defense.
Jets want to make sure they have the right people in there. And they take a timeout. It's 3rd down and a very short 2.
I don't think the Jets had 11 guys again. They have been thoroughly confused tonight defensively, trying to do multiple substitutions to get the right defensive lineman on the field. And as always happens, when guys get hurt, the guys who are backing them up are now out on the field, and there's really thorough confusion on the sideline.
And Miami is helping to confuse them because they're waiting until the last possible moment before they send in whether they want their passing set in or their running set. And the Jets have to wait to see whether it's Jensen and company for the pass or Hampton and company for the run. Meanwhile, we've got the Chicago Bears and the San Francisco 49ers.
Are there
Need more be said?
I read today somewhere that why not just end it right here and call this the Super Bowl?
Yep. Next week, Monday Night Football, Candlestick Park, San Francisco.
And I think Bob Greasy's point at halftime was really well made about that may even be a more important game for San Francisco. Let's put it this way. It's more realistic to think of a team going to San Francisco and playing in nicer weather and winning there than it is to think of someone winning at Soldier Field in January. I mean, if the NFC Championship game is at Soldier Field, I don't know that there's a better home field advantage in having to play in sub-zero weather.
And we pointed out at halftime the significance of what it's meant to have that home field advantage in the 1980s. You get it? It's been the road to the Super Bowl.
And to a winning Super Bowl.
Now, the Dolphins, as you see, confused the Jets again on 3rd down and 2, and the Jets had to wait, and the Dolphins come out in the shotgun on 3rd and about 1.5 yards here from the 38-yard line. And Marino throws. There's a flag down, and no good. Duper short-hopped it, but a marker is down.
And this was well away from the play. It was involving James Pruitt, and one of the Jet defensive backs, I
Carl
think.
Howard.
Might have been Hobley, too, who was over there.
The other side of the field from the pass. And it's going to work against the Jets.
Defensive holding, number 28. Will be a 5-yard penalty and a first down.
He was attached to Pruitt all the way down the field. I think you'll see at the lower part of your screen. Howard against Pruitt, and Marino is looking all the way to the left side.
That's Pruitt right there. They're involved right at the 50-yard line, and Howard just picked Pruitt up and propelled him downfield a good 15 yards, already past the line of scrimmage.
From the 43-yard line, it's Davenport. Stop back at the 40. It'll be 2nd and 13. Crable gets credit for the tackle, and the clock keeps running with 5:10 to play in the fourth. Now, if Miami holds on to win it, Indianapolis would be on top alone. Jets, Buffalo, and Miami would all be 6-6. New England, a battered and beaten up team right now, would be 5-7. And next week, Buffalo plays Indianapolis. Jets go to New England. Miami is at Philadelphia. 2nd and 13. Marino throwing for Hardy. Incomplete, and Clayton was also in the neighborhood.
You don't see that very often. Two of the Dolphin receivers right together, Clayton and Hardy. Some kind of a mix-up down there.
Al, the other thing you have to talk about is Dan Marino vents his temper at one of his teammates. You have to keep in mind that Indianapolis not only has the lead in that division at 7-5, but they by far and away have the best record in their division. They have a 5-2 record in that division, and their closest competitor would be Buffalo with a 3-3 record. So that's a commanding edge to have along with the lead, because after head-to-head, it then goes to the division record in the tie-breaking process.
3rd and 13, and here come the Jets again, and there's Pleco.
Well, that's 4 of a kind now, Joe. That's unbelievable. That's either his 4th or maybe even his 5th offside tonight. When you go beyond one hand, I'm starting to lose track. I've run out of fingers. Joe walking his head.
Offside number 73. It will be 3rd down.
It's kind of hard to fault somebody for that. He's been out of action for so long, although he's been back for a couple of games. It's just enthusiasm. There's a former Pro Bowler multiple times, really considered the heart of this defense, and all night long it's been Pleco offside, just trying to maybe give it a little more than you can.
3rd down and 8.
Still a penalty you just can't afford to take. A veteran ball player can't make that mistake. Not repeatedly.
Out of the shotgun with 4 receivers. Marino too high, intended for Duper. He was there. He had the angle on Humphrey, but Dan couldn't hit him. 4:05 to play.
And the Jets get a chance here.
Miami ahead 37-28. Reggie Roby to do the kicking. And it's Townsell with Sohn now dropping back. Jets trying to set up the return. Kick is a short kick. Fielded at the 20-yard line by Townsell. And he's ridden down at the 25-yard line by Lifford Hobley. 35-yard punt, 5-yard run back. Jets, with 3:51 left, have 2 timeouts remaining, and they are down by 9. And we want to tell you that Saturday, Mercedes-Benz presents the 1987 College Football All-America team. You'll see it at 2 Eastern time, and then at 3 Pacific time, and then live across the country, college basketball, either St. John's, UCLA, Maryland, LSU. Check your local listings. And at 4:30 Eastern, from Cuba, U.S. against Cuba and amateur boxing. From the 25-yard line, it's O'Brien throwing to Rocky Cleaver, and that's a first down out of the 38-yard line. He is stopped there by Mark Brown. 3:39 to play.
And a hurry-up offense. No huddle. They'll try to keep them down on the surface as long as they can. The Dolphins will.
At the 36-yard line, Hector tries to get out of bounds and does to stop the clock out at the 42-yard line with 3:21 to play.
Good, smart play that time by Johnny Hector. He was trapped a good 3, 4, or 5 yards from the sidelines and saw that he had no chance to make anything happen to the middle of the field and got out of bounds. Good play. You play for the Miami Dolphins, your heart is in your throat here a little bit.
O'Brien sacked back at the 34-yard line.
Oh,
John Boza.
He's got his sacks tonight, hasn't he?
Yep. We mentioned earlier, it's gotten a lot of ink down here. The fact that Boza, the number 1 pick, signed late, did not have a sack until tonight. Big one here. And on third down, it's juggled, caught. Council stays on his feet and is taken down at the 46-yard line, about a yard short of the first down, and we're under 3 minutes to go.
It's like two Rams colliding out there.
He and Judson.
Judson and Townsend. Of course, the clock continues to move. The Jets with only 2. They had to wait one. They're going short with no huddle.
And a critical play on 4th down and 1. And pushed back is Vick. He doesn't have it.
And that is not much in the way of running on 4th down. A big man like Roger Vick can't run straight up and down in that situation.
And that's a big, big play to be running without a huddle or without a timeout. 4th down and 1. The Jets on the hurry up, and that's the whole ball game.
You've got to question that. They should have used that time, be a little more cautious with it. They still have a 2-minute warning to work with and 2 timeouts.
But again, I go back to the running of Vick, their number 1 draft choice this year. A big back, 6'3", 232, but he has a tendency, Frank, to run without body lean, to run straight up and down. And on 4th and 1, a big guy like that has got to lower the shoulder and go. Now, granted, he didn't have a lot of blocking in front of him, but sometimes you have to make it happen.
So Shea and Offerdahl to stop him. And so they turn it over. The Jets will have to spend their timeouts on defense, and they'll get a break at the 2-minute warning. But Miami should have this one in hand now, up by 9.
Again, the Jets will be grabbing at the football, trying to pull it loose. Of course, in the Dolphin huddle, there'll be the word of warning before they break the huddle. Let's hang on to it.
Marino leads them up to the 46-yard line, and staying on the ground and making sure he doesn't go anywhere near the sideline is Troy Stradford. And the Dolphins can take it down to the 2-minute warning unless the Jets want to spend one of their 2 timeouts here. And apparently New York is going to let it run down.
They probably would have had the 3 timeouts, and now they decide to take it. That's a funny time to do it. They let about 8 or 10 seconds run off.
Actually, if you're going to take it, it really doesn't matter in the sense that you're going to get it stopped at the 2-minute warning anyway. What really hurts them, too, is that they had to take that other timeout before on defense when they were confused again defensively. So the Jets indecisive, but it really doesn't cost them one way or another in this particular circumstance, whether they take it at 2:20 or 2:08.
Down to 1 timeout.
And the Dolphins right now, what it amounts to is the Dolphins are 1 first down away from winning the game, or salting it away.
And more importantly, staying alive. And it's kind of a rough road to hoe for them as we look at Stratford's marks on the day.
But you have to go back to 1976. There it is, the last time a Dolphin had more carries in a game than Stratford tonight. Mercury Morris.
We mentioned now that they will meet Philadelphia Sunday, then they are home for Washington, and then our final game of the season will see them against New England.
Dwight Stephenson, sprained left knee, x-rays pending. That's about as good a report as we can get right now, the way that one looks.
And you're really not going to get much in the way of any sort of conclusive proof or anything when you x-ray a knee injury. I mean, it's difficult to tell what happens to the ligaments and the tendons in there. As Frank said earlier, you'll know a lot more tomorrow what kind of motion he has and everything else. We just wish for the best. One of the great ones. Same to Russell Carter, who injured his shoulder this evening for New York.
2nd down and 6 at the 42-yard line. Stradford takes the ball to the 40-yard line, and that's going to take us down to the 2-minute warning. And it will be 3rd down and 4 upcoming for Miami when we come back. Dolphins ahead by 9. As we come back, Miami has the football at the Jets' 41-yard line, and they can pretty much wrap this one up, everything but officially, with a 1st down. 3rd and 5. Jets have 1 timeout remaining. 37-28. Dolphins on top, but the Jets made it a contest here in the second half. Miami led 27-0 at halftime.
Kind of nice to have somebody like Marino, because you don't mind at this point putting the football in the air. He had so much confidence in him.
Which he'll do. And for the 1st down to Davenport to the 25-yard line. And that'll write an end to it. And Davenport tonight with 10 catches. He had 9 all year coming in.
You don't mind letting him put it in the air, but you think you would have thought, let's pick up 4, 5, 6 yards. They have so much confidence. They go upfield about 15 yards. And, of course, that totally keeps your defense out of sync.
And it ties a team record with Duriel Harris and Tony Nathan having done it 3 times, catching 10 passes in a game. And they can run it out with Stradford. Tonight's game produced by Ken Wolf, as always, so capably, directed by Larry Cam, our technical director, Joey Chavo, halftime producer Mike Pearl, halftime associate producer John McGinnis, associate director Jeff Cohane, our tech manager Rick Okelski, Ed McKenna, our unit manager, Jim Licata, our telecommunications manager, Bruce Clark and Carrie Lorberfeld, the assistants to the producer, Steve Hurd of Fordham, research and information, Joe Castellano, computer graphics, the mayor of Malibu, Kelly Hayes, as always, the scintillating job, and George Hill of Everywhere with the stats upstairs. Thank you, folks. As Miami gets ready to run the clock out.
You can just get it in, Dan. This telecast is presented by the authority of the National Football League. Is it intended for the private use of our audience? Any rebroadcast or any other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the National Football League is strictly prohibited. So long from Miami.
Wonder what kind of a share that disclaimer reading got.
We are out of here.
That's it. Miami stays alive, and this does a lot of damage to the Jets' hopes. Each team is now 6-6. Miami wins it 37-28. Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, Dan Deerdorf saying goodnight from Joe Robbie Stadium with another look at the standings. Colts on top alone. Buffalo, Miami, Jets a game back, but Indianapolis very much in the driver's seat, and New England 2 behind with 3 to play. Troy Stradford on the night, 30 carries for 120 yards and 3 TDs. This ABC Sports exclusive has been brought to you by Buick and your Buick dealer. The Great American Road belongs to Buick. By Miller Genuine Draft, cold filtered draft beer. It's as real as it gets. By Samsonite, our strengths are legendary. And by McDonald's, it's a good time for the great taste of McDonald's. This Saturday, ABC Sports presents an exciting lineup. First, Mercedes-Benz presents the 1987 College Football All-America team. Then it's ABC's college basketball, followed by the USA against Cuba in amateur boxing. And next week on ABC's Monday Night Football, the Chicago Bears take on the San Francisco 49ers. This has been a presentation of ABC Sports. Recognized